Recapping the top story, President Cyril Ramaphosa says accountability processes are currently underway for those responsible for attempting to collapse the economy. He was addressing the media after his visit to the Richards Bay Port Terminal. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Welcome to the Bafana and as Banyana coach as they prepare for the Africa Cup of Nations. This time, Coach Desiree Ellis announcing her squad. And we also have action at the Joburg Open Golf Tournament, where it's a South African, Tristan Lawrence, leading the way. All this and more just before 6:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Very good morning. Couple of areas where you need to watch for load shedding delays across the next couple of hours. Rudaport and West Rand. They are two separate blocks now, and they are both out until 8 a.m. this morning. Also, top end of Bryanston is offline as well, so that'll cause delays coming in on the main road and on Winnie Mandela south of the highway. It'll probably back you up on the N1, trying to get off at Winnie Mandela and turn south towards Sandton as we go through this morning's rush hour. Truck crash recovery underway on the N3 at Bergville. That is Joburg bound. You can get past, but just watch for some big recovery rigs in that area and also possibly some slowing traffic. Into Cape Town this morning, generally okay on the highways, no major issues. Some load shedding in Cape Town around the Epping area, Epping, Langer and Pinelands, and also the busy Rondebosch, Newlands and Claremont area across the M5 into Rondebosch East and Lansdowne. So those areas, again, will be busy for the next couple of hours. I'm Rob Byrne. SAFM Sunrise starts now.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
Hey, it's Friday. Good morning. Welcome to SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes, 7 minutes after 6 this morning. How you doing? I presume that you've got some plans for the weekend, even if you're just trying to take it easy. Although I don't know if anyone takes it easy at this time of year. I think everyone sort of go, see this person, do that person, do that meeting, see this thing, get this done just before the end of the year. I think we're in that phase. I find that, so often at my stage of life, I sound very old and grand, don't I? But I find that, what you're doing is just determined by children. It's that simple. And so children writing exams is a big thing at the moment. I think that's a big thing in families. There's a sort of level of tension to things. Not an easy time. And then when one child finishes exams before the other, as maybe happening in my house, well, I kind of know that the next week is going to be a little bit... What would be the right phrase? Would chaotic work? I think chaotic, Mdu's nodding, thank you. Chaotic might be the right way to look at it. I think that might be the correct word. I think that's what we're going to see over the next little while. And then exams finish, and everyone's in holiday mode, except for those of us who are still working, which is most of us. So anyway, I presume that you're sort of beginning to seriously look ahead to sort of December, which is literally around the corner. Very, very exciting. Talking of around the corner, President Cyril Ramaphosa went sort of around the corner to Richards Bay yesterday and was looking at the problems with the port himself. You heard him in the news bulletins. You heard him in Elvis's program just a moment ago, talking about the problems there. Kept talking about sort of diagnostic stuff, talking about a lethargy that had built up. I think people are at a point where they just want action. They want something to happen. And we had a mediated conversation about Transnet earlier in the week and, try to get as close as we can to explaining what is going to happen and what is not going to happen. But the impact of the economy, and I was intrigued yesterday when Lesetja Kganyago, the governor of the Reserve Bank, was talking about the problems in our economy, and he specifically mentioned logistics, which is Transnet. And I kind of wonder if Transnet's going to be the new Eskom, I'm afraid. If maybe as we make some progress against load shedding, although we're still stage 4 this morning, that maybe Transnet's going to be the new sort of thing that we start to talk about and how important all of that is. And by the way, I don't know if you were listening at the time, but when the Reserve Bank governor said there were holding rates, no increase, I just went, whew. I think everybody just went, phew. Can you imagine if they had sort of increased? It's been such a tough time. I've been interested in sort of comments and conversation this week around the National Prosecuting Authority and just around the fact that there's, huge problems with capacity. There was the Matsela Koko case. We spoke about that earlier in the week. There was a sort of appearance in Parliament by 2 senior officials, at least from the NPA, and just talking about the lack of resources that they have. So even the Investigative Directorate doesn't have enough investigators. And what I don't get And maybe you understand it better than I do, but what I don't get is we keep being told that the rule of law is a priority, reducing crime is a priority, dealing with state capture is a priority. That's what our politicians tell us. But we're not giving the NPA any more money. Now, surely if it's a priority, you would give the NPA more money. I mean, that's what you would do. But other things seem to get more money and not the NPA. And I'm getting to a point where I kind of feel that actually, and I'm usually very careful about what I say to you. I think I need to be. But I'm kind of at a point where I'm just like, I cannot understand this. If you can, please, I'd be very interested to hear why you think this is happening. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that this keeps happening and that we have these problems and we're not giving the NPA a proper capacity. I thought there's something very, very strange there. Julius Ngesi was talking yesterday, the Minister of Employment and Labour and Employment, I should say, and obviously responded to the issue brought up by Mthunzi Ndwaba. And Mthunzi Ndwaba has claimed that Ngesi is one of three ministers who asked for money through a sort of intermediary to do with this UIF deal that's obviously being set aside. And Ngesi is going to court to make sure it's set aside. And just to point out once again that Ndwaba has offered no public proof of his claims and only made the claims after the deal was stopped. Didn't say anything before. So we just need to be, quite careful. There's a sort of health warning around those claims. Let me put it like that. We still haven't heard what's happening to the commissioner of the UIF, Tebogo Marapeng. Remember that conversation we had with him? Was it 3 weeks ago? I think it was a Monday. And I asked him about it. 4 weeks ago, says Mdu. I asked him about it because he's very much involved in the emails. And he wouldn't answer. Do you remember? It was quite a difficult conversation. He wouldn't answer. And I just thought, sure, and he ducked yesterday's briefing, by the way. What was the quote? Isn't feeling well. That's what we were told. Didn't come to the briefing to answer questions. Someone told me he was actually at another event, but he wasn't feeling well. Anyway, we'll speak to the Labour Department about that. Just a little sort of note and a sort of warning, if I may, if you don't mind. But Parliament is looking at what's called the General Intelligence Laws Amendment Bill. And some MPs, in fact many of them, seem to think that they're now going to have conversations around this bill behind closed doors. I just want to understand this. This will be the first time in our democratic history that laws are discussed without us knowing what is being discussed. I don't know. And I mean, obviously, as a journalist, I'm always going to go for transparency. That's just going to be the way it is. I'm wired like that. And so I accept that there are other views and other opinions. I'm happy to hear them. I just don't think we can make laws behind closed doors. I mean, I just don't think we can. And I can just imagine the court case that will almost inevitably come. I can see Right to Know and others are immediately, starting to write, phoning their lawyers, starting the WhatsApp group, all of that. But making a law behind closed doors? Really? Really? I don't know. Hey, I don't know if we can do that. I think that's going to be a big problem. I really do. And then the National Lotteries Commission, the board of the National Lotteries Commission, instituting criminal charges against former members. And this takes us back to the NPA. They say the NPA and the Hawks haven't moved quickly enough. And you'll have seen all of the reporting by Ray Joseph, which has then been confirmed by the SIU investigation into what's been happening and what happened at the National Lotteries Commission and where that money went. It takes us back to the NPA discussion, doesn't it? All right, lots to talk about this morning. 086 000 2032, SMS 41391. You tweet SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes. You send your WhatsApp voice notes to 0614 104 107. Good morning. It's Friday morning. It's 13 after 6.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
When something is in the heart, you really don't need to be checking as if it was something that was designed to facilitate your appointment. One of the things that I promised the nation was to make sure that transformation happens, with a view to ensuring that work is somewhat evenly distributed among whites, black people, and both black and white women. That is the one responsibility among many that I have pursued with everything within my heart.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Committee on Premier, Finance, Cooperative Governance, Human Settlements and Traditional Affairs will conduct public hearings on the Division of Revenue Amendment Bill B3 2023 on the 24th of November 2023 at Tutlane Community Hall near Setlagoli in Nakamuriri Mulema District, Boskel Community Hall in Dr. Kenneth Kahunda District, Utlanang Community Hall near Christiana in Dr. Rufse Gamutsi Mompati District, and Mabudisa Community Hall near Muruleng in Bojanala District. All public hearings starts at 10 o'clock.
This special acknowledgement goes to Hollywood Bets.
Your heartwarming support gave millions of South Africans a thrilling experience during the Rugby World Cup France 2023.
The vibration that moved the nation.
Salute Hollywood Bets.
Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Daily News Diary on SAFM.
6:15 and Musa, good morning, Friday.
Happy Friday. Good morning, Stephen.
What's coming up today?
Previewing the Oscar Pistorius parole hearing that will be taking place today, the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board for Kgosimampuru Management will meet to consider the profile of Pistorius and whether he's suitable or not for social integration. It is the second time that the Parole Board is meeting to decide whether he should be released or not. Pistorius was convicted of killing Riva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day in 2013 and is currently serving his sentence at the Attridgeville prison in Pretoria. Agnes Sichwancho, the woman that allegedly killed one of her family members to cash out on life insurance policies, is expected to apply for bail at the Mulapo Magistrates Court in Mahikeng, and she's facing a charge of murder, 2 of fraud and 1 of defeating the ends of justice. And the arrest comes after one of her family members died earlier this year, and her death was ruled to be due to natural causes, but one of her family members became suspicious and alerted police. In Klerksdorp, the Orkney Magistrate Court is expected to make a ruling on the bail application of a councillor, Tebogo Sipale, and his bail application was heard last week. He's facing 11 charges, that being 2 of statutory rape, 3 for the violation of child with consent, 1 for manufacturing pornographic material, 4 for rape and 1 for sexual intimidation. And the state may also add other charges. This is when the matter goes to a higher court. They are yet to hear from the Provincial Director of Public Prosecution whether the matter will be directed to the High Court in Mahikeng or not. And the vehicle tracking expert, that's Michael Dupree, is also expected back on the stand today at the Senzumehiwa trial within a trial on the admissibility of the confession statements at the High Court in Pretoria. Dupree has been giving testimony on the automatic vehicle locator data from the vehicle that was being driven by the investigating officer following the arrest of accused number 2 Bonkani Ntanzi. 5 men, as we know, are on trial for the murder of the Bafana Bafana captain Senzumehiwa, who was shot and killed in 2014. And just lastly, the social development is to lead a walk against homophobia in Pretoria this morning. It is a build-up to the 16 days campaign for no violence against women and children, which this year is commemorated under the theme Accelerating Actions to End Gender-Based Violence and Femicide.
I wonder if route will take them past the Ugandan High Commission. And Musa, thank you very much indeed. We'll be listening on the radio 18 after 6.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
Let's have a look at your weather around the country this morning. Tshwane, partly cloudy, 22 and 35. Still very warm on the Highveld at the moment. Johannesburg, partly cloudy, 20 and 34. Vereeniging, partly cloudy, 22 and 34. Bombela, fine, 20 and 35. Polokwane, fine, 21 and 34. Mahikeng, fine, becoming partly cloudy, 22 and 37. Vryburg, partly cloudy, isolated showers and thundershowers, 19 and 38. Mangung, partly cloudy, scattered showers and thundershowers, 20 and 34. Kimberley, cloudy, isolated showers, thundershowers, 23 and 36. Uppington, partly cloudy, isolated showers and thundershowers, 25 and 37. Cape Town, partly cloudy, a light southwesterly wind, 16 and 23. George, cloudy, light rain in the morning, a light southerly wind, 15 and 22. Gqeberha, cloudy, scattered showers and rain, a light to moderate southerly wind, 17 and 23. East London, cloudy, scattered showers, thundershowers, a moderate to fresh southwesterly, 19 and 24. eThekwini, partly cloudy, isolated showers, thundershowers, a moderate northeasterly wind, 22 and 32. Richards Bay, fine, partly cloudy in the afternoon, some isolated showers and thundershowers, that moderate to fresh northeasterly wind, 22 and 35. Then Pietermaritzburg, partly cloudy, scattered showers and thundershowers, 19 and 40. It's 20 minutes after 6.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. The theme of the lecture is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law in South Africa. Has corruption and malfeasance eroded the moral fabric of the democratic dispensation? The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversation.
Mzansi, we thank you for what you did yesterday, today, and what you will do tomorrow to meet your tax obligations. By submitting your income tax returns on time and keeping your personal and banking information up to date, you have made your tax matters daily matters. Our gratitude as SARS is immeasurable. We thank you for contributing to our country's prosperity. Visit sars.gov.za to keep your details updated. Your tax matters. SARS at your service.
Hello, Michelise. Hope you're well. Listen, I went to this car heaven place We Buy Cars with Henriette to sell the caravans and the jet skis she must now got from the divorce because she's never going onto the Vaal River again, she says. So We Buy Cars bought it from her for a great price. Nobody, you should tell your husband to sell all of those project cars and take you to the Maldives. Or just give them a call because they come to your house and then they buy your car somewhere so on the spot where they're so gerieflik.
We Buy Cars, the best place to sell your car by far.
The beauty, power, elegance and speed of horse racing.
The passion at the heart of horse racing diligence.
Where these magnificent creatures and their skilled jockeys compete for glory.
Racing today.
Catch it live on Mondays to Fridays on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com.
#Horses of Great Character. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Worldview Update, bringing you closer to international news.
22 after 6, good morning. In Pakistan, the former Prime Minister Imran Khan now expected to appear in public for the first time in months when he will appear in court next week on charges of leaking state secrets while he was Prime Minister. Khan was first removed as a Prime Minister in a parliamentary vote and then arrested by the military. They claim he broke the law while he was Prime Minister. He says there's a conspiracy against him. In Pakistan, of course, the military has long played a big role in politics. Timbisa Fakure is the head of Africa-Asia Dialogues. Timbisa, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Imran Khan faces a series of charges. Is it possible to know at this stage if there's real evidence of wrongdoing or if this is really about politics?
Well, all you know is that the court declared his trial in jail illegal. That is the Islamic High Court of Pakistan. So, we're heading towards elections in Pakistan, and his party, the PTI, seem set to gain or make some wins in the next elections. And when these charges that have been brought against him, most of them look like they're just all made-up charges to prevent him from continuing with his political career and, importantly, of course, to contest the next elections.
So when he was removed, there were protests. Members of his political party held protests. Some of those were broken up by the military, and it got to be really quite difficult. You had, the scary part was sort of this violence. Some people died. We've got these elections soon when his party has momentum. I mean, we're looking at a real clash here.
It is a real clash, and you can see the political intervention, and obviously it's meant to stop Imran Khan from participating in election. I mean, that he's barred from becoming the next prime minister of Pakistan, but at least he could participate freely without having all the time, having this jail possibility hanging over him. And at the moment, I mean, it's quite a tough guy, as you know. He has continued, but of course, what we've seen now is the less and less people on the streets of Pakistan for various reasons. Many of them have been intimidated, etc., and others have decided even to run away from Pakistan because of fearing that they might be jailed. So it is a very tense political environment at the moment in Pakistan. And I think Imran Khan, being Imran Khan, he was likely, of course, to continue lobbying and bringing people out in the streets. But I think also at the same time, the military has been very, very tough in terms of dealing with the supporters of Imran Khan. So we'll have to see what's going to happen on Tuesday, because the first time he appears, probably he's going to pull some crowds as he always does.
So, I mean, a lot's going to happen there, and this takes us straight to the question, of course, about democracy in Pakistan. If his party does very well, it would appear that voters want him to be prime minister, and yet it would really be the military stopping him. And we keep on having this tension in Pakistan between the role of the military and democracy, and, of course, the military's indulged in several coups over the years.
Yeah, and this is likely to happen if Imran Khan's party, the PTI, does win. You are likely again to have the military intervening. The only challenge, of course, in Pakistan is that the military is also generally is respected for other reasons, not only because it continues to have these coups, but it's a very big military, it's a very big institution, and that provides not only economic opportunities for many, but basically controls everything in Pakistan. So you have a lot of people who are really wary and scared of tackling it head on, because it's also one of the largest employment platform in Pakistan. It employs a lot of people, because many of the military companies employ a lot of Pakistani people. So what you've seen at the moment, you have seen a lot of people not wanting to challenge what's going on at the moment, because of fearing that they might lose opportunities and they must lose their jobs, etc., if they do continue supporting Imran Khan and going against the military in Pakistan.
Tembisa Fakuda, thank you very much indeed for Africa-Asia Dialogues. Right, well, important things going on in Pakistan at the moment. That court appearance happening early next week. You with SAFM, coming up now to 27 minutes after 6.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning.
Good morning.
So, Banyana coach Desiree Ellis.
Yes, they've got some exciting things to happen, and that's the champions. They are the African champions. They'll be returning to action, and this is for the 2024 Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier. They'll take on Burkina Faso on the 30th of November. That's game 1, before they go on to play game 2 on the 4th of December. Now, a win will secure Banyana's spot at the tournament, a chance to defend their title. Former captain Janine van Wyk returns, while current captain Rafael Wejane continues to recover from injury. But let's hear now from Banyana coach Desiree Ellis.
We look back at the previous Olympic campaign. We didn't score away from home, and it cost us in the end. We knew the game was going to be difficult, but I think it could have been more than one. We had a couple of chances, so did they. But overall, happy with what we got out of the game. I know we can play better. We also have personnel back. So really looking forward to this game. It's not going to be an easy game, make no mistake. But we're playing at home, and we hope the fans can come out and support us.
On to golf, and the South African golfer Tristan Lawrence began his bid for a second title at the Joburg Open by shooting an 8 under 64 yesterday to lead by 3 shots after the first round of the season opening event on the European Tour. Lawrence birdied 5 of the first 6 holes to quickly tie for first place with the clubhouse leader and compatriot Nicol Rama on 65. Defending champion Dan Bradbury shot 66 and was in a 10-way tie for third place. Here's Tristan Lawrence.
Putter was hot. Just felt like I was reading them really nicely. Speed was good, and compared to last year, the greens are quite firm, so you could actually play some nice shots. And even coming in with an 8-iron, you can sort of plan a shot with all the undulations on the screens. But I got the wind right today. I was pin high quite a few times, and proximity to the hole was good as well. And like I say, putter was on fire. So very happy with the opening run.
Tennis action, Yannick Sinner continuing his brilliant form, helping Italy to reach the semi-finals of the Davis Cup in Malaga yesterday. Italy, one of the favourites for the title, had to come from behind against Netherlands after Botic van der Zandschulp saved 3 match points in a 6-7, 6-3, 7-6 victory over Matteo Analdi, and was a 3-hour opener. But Sinner, who has broken into the world's top 4 this season, finished runner-up to Novak Djokovic at the ATP Finals on Sunday, drew Italy level by defeating Talon Grigspor 7-6, 6-1. Let's hear from Yannick Sinner.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it means a lot to me, but I think more importantly, we are through in the semi-final. First time that I can experience this. Last year I was not here, so it was my debut today. It was an incredible debut, and for sure it means a lot to all of us. We were under a lot of pressure, and obviously the decision also to put us on the court deciding doubles. I think we have to give a lot of credit for the captain and all the team pushing us to the limits, and obviously all the fans. It's amazing, and now we are focused about after tomorrow.
And finally, the world number one Novak Djokovic stealing Serbia's place in the semi-finals. They beat Great Britain's Cameron Norrie 6-4, 6-4. And the champions for the first time in 2010 when Djokovic won his 2 singles rubbers in the final against France. Serbia's bid for a second Davis Cup title will continue when they face Italy in the semi-finals. More sport on Sunrise. Headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you very much indeed. You with SAFM. Coming up in the next half hour, we'll talk about the regulation of smoking. Always brings out strong views. You're with SAFM. It's just stage 4 load shedding until further notice, just gone 6:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi has confirmed that an individual seeking immunity has anonymously accused him of corruption. Meanwhile, Nxesi is set to file court papers to set aside the controversial 5 billion unemployment insurance fund jobs deal with Tuja Holdings. President Cyril Ramaphosa says accountability processes are currently underway for those responsible for attempting to collapse the economy. He was addressing the media after his visit to the Richards Bay Port Terminal. And a long-anticipated 4-day halt of fighting between Israel and Hamas is expected to begin in Gaza in a few hours' time. Fighting has continued in the lead-up to the ceasefire, the first since the war started nearly 7 weeks ago. I'll have details on these and other stories at 7.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Some load shedding across northern parts of Joburg this morning. Next couple of hours, Bryanston blocks are offline, so that is likely to have an impact on both Winnie Mandela and the main road coming through from Lone Hill and Four Ways as you come into that Bryanston area. Both blocks of the West Rand are off. There's a Rudaport block these days and a general West Rand block, and they're both off together, so your usual busy routes there will start to backlog. Heavy pressure in from the south. If you come in from Protea Glen, Lenasia, El Dorado Parkside, there's a stationary truck inside the Deepcliff interchange. So the N1 queuing heavily passing Eldos up into Deepcliff for a very slow trip down towards Uncle Charlie's. Nasty little early Friday morning crash on Durban's N2 southbound, just approaching the Umlazi exit. 1 lane open, traffic backlogging through to the Higginson Highway. If you're on your way to the south coast, that's quite heavy. Cape Town Stellenbosch arterial route has been really busy lately. It is again this morning, just coming through from the Blackheath side. Big queues towards the R300, and we'll keep an eye on the Tableview area, see how Friday pans out, whether it's any quieter, but anecdotally it's all starting to build up. Malabongwe to the N7, Marine Drive to Dolphin Beach, and of course Bloberg Road, queuing back towards sort of Guy and Gill Road as you line up to the roadworks down by the refinery side. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Here's Ray Machlaka.
Both markets are mostly up, ending the trading week with marginal gains. Markets are still digesting minutes from the US Central Bank's recent meeting on interest rates. Central Bank officials agreed that they would proceed carefully and only increase interest rates if the consumer inflation rate does not decrease. US markets were mostly closed yesterday for the Thanksgiving holiday, and before the US market officially opens later today, the futures market is mostly up. Nasdaq, Dow Jones and S&P futures are each up 0.1%. In Asian markets, Japan's Nikkei is up 0.8%. China's Shanghai Composite is down 0.4%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng is down 1.6%, and the dollar to the rand is 18.83. For its final decision of the year, the Reserve Bank has left interest rates unchanged. This means that the interest rate that commercial banks charge for vehicle and home loans will remain at 11.75%. The decision to not increase or decrease interest rates comes at a time when the consumer inflation rate remains high. The inflation rate increased to 5.9% in October for the third consecutive month. The Reserve Bank says petrol, diesel and food price increases remain a threat to inflation. The bank remains ready to increase interest rates further to reduce the inflation rate. To save the post office from collapse, the state-owned entity requires a bailout of 3.8 billion rand from the government. Also, 6,000 workers will have to be retrenched and over 400 post office branches across the country will have to be closed. These are proposals contained in the Post Office Business Rescue Plan published yesterday. The Business Rescue Plan is not final and will have to be accepted by 75% of post office creditors at a vote in December in order to be implemented.
It's Ray Machlaka. Thank you very much indeed. 25 minutes to 7.
Africa Update on SAFM Sunrise, a continental overview of current African affairs.
Russ Advocate Sipho Mantula, good morning.
Steve Ovo, refresh morning and Jumbo Africa to the listeners.
In Mali, the head of the military regime in Niger making his first visit to Bamako.
Stephen, we know that General Abdurrahmani Tiani met with Colonel Asim Goita yesterday. Others are saying the first regional visit by the general since the July military coup in Niger, Niamey. Their meeting is also around issues of security, trade and industry within the Sahel region. We know that Mali, Burkina Faso, Guinea-Conakry, Stephen, you can call them the rebels of West Africa that have moved out from ECOWAS. They've been sanctioned, but this visit of General Tiani was around the issue of saying that they want to transform the Sahel region from a zone of insecurity to a zone of growth and development. So we'll wait and see, as we know that both countries, Stephen, their electoral calendar has gone beyond 2024. It is not certain when will Mali go for the elections, as well as Niger.
And then in Ghana, the government there declaring visas. What are they doing?
This visa, they call it Beyond the Return campaign to encourage Africans in the diaspora to explore and reconnect with Ghana. It means from next week on the 1st of December until January 15, 2024, it's a 46-day visa on arrival window for the what they call Christmas visitors in Accra, in Ghana. We'll know that even if you don't talk of Africa free trade, that will include the tourists, that will include trade. So far, we know that 4 countries in the African continent have done what you call a visa entry free for all African citizens. This is Rwanda, Seychelles, the Gambia, as well Benin, and we know Kenya is also pushing this as part of allowing African visitors, not only from even diaspora, even within the African continent to visit, because these visa issues, Stephen, they are always a challenge in the African continent.
And then in the Comores, the Supreme Court there saying that the incumbent can go for re-election in 2024.
And we are talking about the chairperson of the African Union in 2023 now, President Azali Ousmane. They are going for the elections in January on the 14th. It means we started the year with a bang from the islands in Comoros, Moroni. A very small island, but they are going for the elections. And there was this issue of that, should he not go for this term, as there was protest by some of the political parties in Comoros. Now, the court yesterday claimed, said that he can participate in the 2024 elections on the 14th of January. So we'll be moving to the islands at some point. This is an officer and a president who came into power, Stephen, in 1999 through coup, and he has since won 3 elections. And others are saying it might be that he has stayed too long in power, but let's see 2024 what will come out from the islands.
And then in Liberia, the newly elected president, Joseph Boakai, there calling for unity, reconstruction and reform of the security systems.
This was a long-way testing because being a former vice president, Joseph Bukai, coming out clear that the issues of security sector reform, looking at the issues of justice system, corruption, but also highlighting the important issue of national unity, social cohesion among the people of West Africa, and also looking at what I've said earlier about Mali and Niger, raising it very clear in terms of the coup d'etats that have affected the West Africa region, but also what his own country went through with the Ebola epidemic as well as the civil war, but pushing the unity idea to the people of Liberia, and George Weah accepting those results, and they will be the official opposition.
And then in our archives, this day, 24th of November 2005.
I'm still in Liberia. It was on this day when the former President Thabo Mbeki hailed the Liberian first woman to become a president in the region post the war and the conflict that was in that country. That is Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. This is a woman where the others were saying it was a new dawn for the African continent. Coincidentally, was educated, Stephen, in Harvard, and a person who was replaced, this woman was replaced by George Weah. Talking about Harvard, others are talking about the Harvard report as we speak now, Stephen. Others are talking about the RAND manipulation. These are the women who were leading the African continent in 2005. Asante Sana, this was still leading the conversation, SAFM.
Ras Advocate Sipho Mantula, thank you very much indeed. Back, of course, on Monday. More news from our continent through the day here on SAFM, 20 minutes to 7.
Buying a new TV? You'll need a paid-up TV license. Need to check your balance? No sweat at all. You just SMS your ID or TV license account number to 44210 for fast, effective balance inquiries. Secure your legal viewing fast and simple. Standard SMS rates will be charged. Terms and conditions apply. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will conduct public hearings on Northwest Gambling Amendment Bill 2022 and Northwest Consumer Affairs Bill 2019 on 28 November 2023 at Barolombo Ratloubakasitsiro Community Hall in Kunwana, Kakala Community Hall in New Doornstad, Kismet Hall in Vryburg, and Moretele Community Hall in Moretele. All public hearings start at 10.
Black Friday is back at Dis-Chem. Now for 9 days, from Wednesday 22nd to Thursday 30th November. Make the most of big offers and huge savings. Get 2 Sanex 750ml shower gels for only 140 Rand. Save 69 Rand 90. And save a whopping 80 Rand per pack when you buy Huggies Gold Value Pack nappies. Now only 149 Rand 99, in-store only. Get down to Black Friday at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Second from the bottom, FC Köln confronts second from the top, Bayern München. The Billy Goats need a rapid plan to escape from the danger zone. Meanwhile, the Bavarians want to return to the summit. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the spectacular encounter between FC Köln and Bayern München this Friday, 24 November at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Good to hear from you this morning. 086 000 2032. Lots to talk about. Of course, we're also expecting that sort of truce, the 4-day pause in the fighting in Gaza to start at around 7 o'clock our time, so in around 17 minutes. So watching that situation very closely as well. Let's just see what happens. The Human Rights Commission saying quite late yesterday it will now investigate claims made in a report by the Freedom Front Plus about the situation at state hospitals. The FF Plus saying it's been given evidence of sexual abuse of patients by workers, of patients literally lying for hours in sheets covered in urine. In other cases, and I'm not going to describe this in detail because it's just too horrible, but mothers of newborn children or stillborn babies being treated very, very badly. Philip van Staden is a member of Parliament for the FF Plus. Philip, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
What did you find in your investigation? What did people tell you about what happened to them in public hospitals?
Yeah, no, I must say the complaints we're getting from the public about the experiences of poor treatment at these state healthcare institutions was overwhelming response from the public, but it paints a disturbing picture of human rights abuses, utter decline in service delivery and infrastructure, as well as staff's incompetence and indifferent attitude towards the plight and suffering of the patients. The content in this report is very disturbing, and that's why when we received these complaints since July last year until August this year, we've decided as Freedom Front Plus, there's only one way to go, and that is to go and lay these complaints at the Human Rights Commission for further investigation. And as you mentioned now, the HRC indicated yesterday that these investigations is underway, and we are very happy to hear that. Yeah, this report of us is, there are many examples that amounts to serious accusation against the government that has no empathy for the suffering of the sick. And it's very disturbing images and complaints that we have received that is published in this report. Yes.
Philip, did you find that there are more cases or worse cases in some places than in others? I mean, for years, the Sowetan newspaper in Gauteng has run stories about mothers at Chris Hani Baragwanath Hospital, for example. I mean, they did that for a very long time. Do you find that there are more cases in some places?
Look, I must tell you, I'm visiting public hospitals on a regular basis because of my portfolio in Parliament. But I must tell you that the stuff I have seen the past few years in public hospitals, and that is published in this report that we have received from the public, these cases, I haven't even seen something like this, which we have received from the public. Yes, there are institutions that have more detailed stuff than others. There are institutions that is much worse than others, but at the end of the day, it mustn't happen, and we can't sit with a health system where patients don't receive adequate treatment from these institutions. So across the board, across all 9 provinces, we receive these complaints, these horrible complaints, and I think it's time that the world and South Africans must take serious note of this government's inability to provide adequate healthcare as contained in Section 27 of the Constitution. I think it's sorry, I just want to say this government is in our eyes totally incompetent to perform their duties, and they must be held accountable for every single human rights violation that is taking place daily in these institutions.
Part of this is also about the NHI. You oppose the introduction of the NHI that's going through the National Council of Provinces at the moment. The argument for the NHI is that it is precisely this kind of problem that the NHI would fix.
But the NHI will not fix this problem. You must remember, our current health system is broken. The NHI system cannot work if the current infrastructure is not adequate. That is the problem we're sitting with. You must remember there's a clause in the NHI bill which says that certificates from the Office of Health Standard Compliance must be issued to a facility before they can make use of the NHI system. Now we're sitting with a problem. Basically, all our state facilities is in such a inadequate state, but it's not possible. The other problem we have is that the Office of Health Standard Compliance doesn't have enough staff members. It doesn't have an adequate budget. I think across the country, there's only 38 inspectors to inspect over 5,000 health facilities in the private and public sector. So if your infrastructure on the state side currently is not up to scratch and up to date, then you won't be able to implement the NHI. The NHI won't work. We are saying as Freedom Front Plus, the current system is broken, the NHI won't work, so what must we do? A new system must be developed, not by politicians, but by medical professionals in South Africa. And I think that is the starting point where we must go. NHI will not work. It's a nationalization project. The current system is broken. A new system must be developed, but not by ANC politicians or officials, but by medical professionals in this country.
Philip van Staden, thank you. Member of Parliament for the Freedom Front Plus. You know, of course, there's strong arguments and strong views in many different directions on the NHI. It's 12 minutes now to 7.
Join us on Afternoon Express Tuesday at 6 p.m. on S3 as we discuss grieving and dealing with loss. We unpack everything from working through the grieving process to understanding the financial implications that you should be prepared for. Plus, we guide you through the importance of drafting a legal will. That's Afternoon Express this Tuesday at 6 p.m. only on S3. Repeat Sundays at 8:30 a.m.
Did you hear that? That's the sound of lights being switched off to reduce the impact of load shedding. Eskom is encouraging you to use less electricity at all times by switching off electrical appliances and lights that are not in use. Cell phone chargers, TVs, and decoders still use electricity if they're not switched off at the socket. You see, if we all switch off what is not in use, our combined effort could help reduce the impact of load shedding. Let's work together by switching off to reduce load shedding.
Wow, finding out about my health has never been so easy. I just spoke to a nurse and I also got to ask a doctor a question, and I didn't even have to leave my home. Want to download your COVID-19 vaccine certificate? The National Health Hotline nurses and agents can help on 0800 029 999. And you can also ask a doctor a health question on the Kiredi WhatsApp line on 060 019 0000. That's Kiredi on 060 019 0000.
Score big with Diadora South Africa, and your soccer team could soon face your opponents in Diadora gear. Show off your love for the game and gear up for victory. Join the competition now for a chance to win a full soccer team kit, a goalkeeper kit, and accessories. All you have to do is follow at Diadora.South-Africa on Instagram. Tag your team and teammates in the comment section of our posts. The competition closes on the 30th of November at 2 p.m. T's and C's apply.
Hashtag we love it here.
This great initiative is supported by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Well, heaviest delay around Gauteng at the moment is the N1 North coming in from the Eldorado Park, Lenasia and Protea Glen sides. It's a broken down truck inside the Deep Cliff interchange, and the N1 pushing heavily back towards the N12 Potchefstroom Highway. If you come in from Protea Glen or Lenasia, reroute through Soweto or reroute out through Aikenhof would work nicely. Just to suspect some delays, if you're leaving the Vaal this morning, you'll be asked to sit in a bit of traffic approaching the Michelle Avenue exit. That's on the R59 coming north up into Alberton. Pretoria's N1 South looking a bit sluggish this morning. Grasfontein down to the lane restrictions at the R21. It hasn't been too bad lately, but this morning it is quite heavy. And Durban queuing up already between the M7 Bluff exit going north towards the roadworks north of Spaghetti Junction, and southbound a nasty crash down by the Umlazi exit. So traffic heading onto the south coast, backlogging as far as the Higginson Highway. Cape Town, your Table View exits are busy again this morning. Marine Drive to Dolphin Beach, Otto du Plessis to Dolphin Beach coming off the beachfront, very busy as well. Malabongwe Drive, under a lot of pressure from the bends at Rivergate all the way down to the N7 at Deneu, and the Bloberg Road out towards the roadworks at Refinery. That is already pushed back beyond Gill and Gee Road. N7 going north through Langa up towards Epping is busy. There's some load shedding in the Epping and Langa areas until 8 a.m. this morning. Rob Byrne, SFM Traffic.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
10 minutes to 7 the time. Parliament's Health Committee holding public hearings on the new tobacco bill this weekend. The bill wants to place new restrictions on when and how people can smoke. It would regulate vaping for the first time. The tobacco industry, as you know, is hugely opposed to the bill. They obviously want to protect their business. And a reminder before we do these conversations, the World Health Organization says smoking kills. Dr. Sharon Inyatsanza is from the National Council Against Smoking. Dr. Inyatsanza, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen.
You support the bill. What are you expecting from these public hearings?
So definitely we support the bill, and in the public hearings which are going to be held in Gauteng, the first one is today in Heidelberg, then the second one is going to be in Western Region tomorrow, and on Sunday they will also hold another public hearing in the Tshwane region. And what we really expect is to see a lot of South Africans attending, just the normal community members attending and supporting their bill, voicing their concerns. You don't need to be, an expert to actually be participating in the public hearings. Actually, most of the powerful, submissions that we have witnessed and observed in the past in the other provinces have really been from, ordinary people, stories from mothers, parents, school teachers, college attending people, just raising their own concerns and experiences around tobacco, whether from a youth point or from a point of being exposed to secondhand smoke.
Do you believe that the tobacco bill actually goes far enough?
Yes, I do believe that it does go far enough. Definitely, yes. There are other measures that I would say I would see them in the bill, but I think the bill in its current form does contain specific provisions which when they all come together, they will definitely make a difference. So, for example, we're regulating vaping for the first time. Currently, you know that vaping is sold anywhere. It's marketed in any way, it's packaged in any way, it's sold in so many flavors, and already science is showing that evidence in Africa is already showing that there's a problem with grade 8s, grade 11s using the tobacco, the vaping, and they're already addicted to the product. So I believe that is one key measure, for example, that the bill is introducing. Or for example, if you look at other measure, plain packaging with picture warnings, instead of just saying smoking causes cancer in a small text, what we'll start to see is that there will now be health warnings which are in picture form and which actually form the bigger part of the package. So yes, the measures definitely will go a long way in reducing the kids from starting to smoke, in encouraging as well the people who smoke already to quit, and finally in protecting the non-smokers from second-hand smoke.
Dr. Sharon Inyatsanza, thank you, from the National Council Against Smoking with SFM 6 minutes to 7. Zachariah Mutsamai is from the South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance. Zachariah, good morning. You've issued a statement saying these public hearings should stop now. Why don't you want people to be heard on a bill that affects them? That's democracy.
Good morning to you and good morning to your listeners. What we are saying is that the public hearing, the way the government is handling it, we feel our position is that this is just, we believe that is a waste of time. That's a waste of government's money, that the government should have done first the socio-economic impact study. That would then make people aware, and then that would also inform the government of what is happening in the tobacco industry. So what is happening to the consumers, what is happening to the people that are selling tobacco, name your spaza shops and people that are selling on the street, how this will impact their lives. So government didn't do that. That is why we strongly believe that this is the right thing that they should have done. But having said that, we believe that these public hearings, they are not going to assist in any way. Currently, we've got a legislation that is in place that I just heard the doctor talking about how this will assist, but we believe that it won't assist. The biggest problem that we have in our country is enforcement. So if the government can ensure that the current legislation that we have that talks about the tobacco that shouldn't be sold to young people at age of 18 and less, and the issues of how people should smoke, because it talks about the designated areas.
Sure, Zachariah, you can go to your tobacco talking points all you like. You still haven't answered the question. Shouldn't people be heard? Shouldn't there be public hearings? Isn't that democratic?
No. We believe that the people should be heard. But what I'm saying is that the government should have done first the socio-economic impact study. That is one thing that the government should have done.
Okay, but we know the impact of smoking on people, Zachariah. I mean, do we really need another study to tell us what we all know, which is that smoking is bad for you?
I think legally, yes, the government they should do the socio-economic study. But having said that, we believe that we have done already 4 provinces. Today is the 5th province that we'll be doing. People have been airing their views, more especially when it comes to the issue of tobacco. And then we had mixed feelings. Most of the people are saying that the government doesn't care for their livelihoods. Government doesn't look into the issue of illicit trade. That is rampage in this country. That is our biggest problem that we have.
Okay.
Yes, the public hearings can continue, but we are still of the opinion that this is not a way to do things.
Okay, I mean, you said, yes, the public hearings can continue, but then you issued an entire statement saying they should be stopped.
Yeah, that is why that was my position from the beginning, that we are saying that this is not going to help our country. This public hearing should be stopped. That is our position.
Okay.
But on the other hand, if government want to proceed with this thing, we are saying people should come in numbers so that they can add their views on this issue.
All right. Zachariah, I accept the argument, just so that you're aware, I accept the argument from the tobacco industry that enforcement is a problem, and we saw during this sort of total ban during the lockdown what happened and the illicit industry grew. I accept that. That said, you represent the tobacco industry, and frankly, won't they do anything to stop the bill? You don't care how you do it. You're going to argue process. You're going to argue that there shouldn't be this hearing or that hearing, or that this must happen first. The fact is, you want to stop it because in the end, the proposed tobacco bill, as it is now, will reduce the number of cigarettes being sold. And isn't, Zachariah, reducing the number of cigarettes being sold a good thing?
That is a good thing. That we totally agree with that. That is a good thing in reducing. But the way the government is doing it, we believe that it's not going to assist. For an example, if I can just name one, the issue of plain packaging. Plain packaging will never, ever assist in reducing smoking, because we believe that once you introduce plain packaging, then everything will then be in unison, everything will then be the same. So that is where now the perpetrators, the people that we are talking about, the illicit traders, that is where they're going to find joy and continue on with their business. As we speak now, illicit trading in this country is up to 70%. That simply means that for every seven cigarettes that are produced, or 7 cigarettes that have been sold, 10 cigarettes that have been sold, 7 of them are illicit. So that is where our problem is, that plain packaging will never ever assist this country when it comes to when the government implements that. So and secondly, the issue of banning the display of tobacco, it is also not going to assist. That is why we are saying that the government should have called the tobacco industry. The government should have taken this matter to the network so that we can have informed study before implementing this bill.
Zachariah Mutsamai, thank you, spokesperson for the South African Tobacco Transformation Alliance, another debate that will continue for quite a long time. In a moment, we'll talk to the Patriotic Alliance. Are their coalitions with the ANC in danger over the situation with Israel and Gaza? We expect that truce to literally come into effect as I talk to you now and during this news bulletin. It's due to start at 7 o'clock local time. You're with SFM, leading the conversation. It is 7 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, Nesi files court papers to cancel UIF deal and long-awaited hostage deal in Gaza set to begin. Good morning. The Labour Minister Tulas Nesi has confirmed an individual seeking immunity has anonymously accused him of corruption. Meanwhile, Nesi is set to file court papers to set aside the controversial 5 billion unemployment insurance fund jobs deal with Tuja Holdings. He briefed the media yesterday following allegations of his involvement in the UIF jobs deal saga with Mthunzi Mdwaba's Tuja Holdings.
Further allegations have been made apparently by anonymous individuals seeking immunity from past crimes committed. The allegation is that the former DG, Mr. Tobile Lamat, and myself colluded in legally siphoning off 3 billion rand from the LAP program. This flies in the face of Mr. Mdwaba's claims that I spent the last year pushing Mr. Lamati out of his position as DG. A strange way to treat a conspirator. On the last issue of this 3 billion, I'm happy that this will be investigated by the law enforcement agencies.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says accountability processes are currently underway for those responsible for attempting to collapse the economy. He was addressing the media after his visit to the Richards Bay Port Terminal. Ramaphosa's visit comes amid concerns over the backlog of cargo and congestion of trucks, and after Transnet's suspension of receiving of goods by road to the Richards Bay Mineral Port Terminal. He says those who are involved in economic sabotage should be held to account.
We are involved in a process where we're looking at the capabilities of the people who are working for our state-owned enterprise. And the minister and the key executives are involved in that. So we're not going to, let sleeping dogs lie. We're going to go into a deep process of examining the capabilities of people, and those who are clearly not able to meet that level of capability. I mean, we have to deal with that problem.
The DA is adamant President Cyril Ramaphosa must account for what it terms failing the children of South Africa. The party has confirmed it has laid a complaint with the South African Human Rights Commission against Ramaphosa regarding what the DA says is starvation among almost 5 million of South Africa's children. According to the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund's latest State of the South African Child Report, 4.8 million of the country's 20 million children are starving. The DA says the tragic situation is the consequence of negligence on the part of the president. Busi Chimombe reports.
The DA says it has long put forward proposals to government to end child hunger. These include raising the child support grant to the food poverty line. This, it says, would cost just 26 billion rands. Another proposal is that there be a review of the list of zero-rated foods with a view to including bone-in chicken, baby food, and other items most commonly purchased by low-income households. Busi Chimombe, SABC News.
Johannesburg Waters urge residents to use water sparingly as the heat wave continues in parts of the country. The South African Weather Service now says the extreme weather temperatures will continue until Tuesday next week. Affected provinces include Gauteng, the Free State, the Northwest, the Northern Cape, Limpopo, Mpumalanga and KwaZulu-Natal. The heat wave has also affected Joburg Water's ability to provide water to residents. However, the Acting General Manager Logan Munsami says plans are in place.
Although as it stands the system is healthy and it's showing upward trajectory in terms of reservoir levels, the heat wave conditions is always a risk. We are urging customers to use water sparingly, to report immediately any burst and leak so that they can be attended to, and at the same time to adhere to the level of water restrictions that we have imposed. So it's a joint consolidated effort that our communities and customers needs to partner with us to make these changes.
A long-anticipated four-day halt of fighting between Israel and Hamas is expected to begin in Gaza. Fighting has continued in the lead-up to the ceasefire, the first since the war started nearly 7 weeks ago. Both Israel and Hamas have signaled that the truce will be temporary. Meanwhile, Egypt says 130,000 litres of diesel and 4 trucks of gas will be delivered to Gaza daily. The BBC's Sanjay Dasgupta reports.
The head of the Egyptian State Information Service, Dia Rashwan, put the number of trucks expected to enter Gaza at 200. The British Foreign Secretary, David Cameron, who is in the Middle East, said the UK would provide nearly $40 million to tackle the humanitarian crisis.
Recapping the top story, the Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi has confirmed that an individual seeking immunity has anonymously accused him of corruption. For SAFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And thank you. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on a possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. This is not a Black Friday ad. It's also not a once-off discount or even a limited offer. But it is a great opportunity to see if you could save on your car insurance each and every month. If our insurance is more expensive than what you're currently paying, ask for 500 Rand. Claim free, and with the same insurer for 3 years, ask for 1,500 Rand. That's a monthly saving on your premium or the cash promise. SMS out to 38462. You've got nothing to lose. SMS now. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you in your SFM Sports Headlines. Soccer action where Richards Bay FC coach Caetano Tembu has urged his side to bury their goal-scoring chances as they prepare to take on Orlando Pirates tomorrow. And we also have Formula One. Lewis Hamilton says he denies Red Bull approaching him. We'll find out more just before 7:30.
SAFM. Guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
It's a really big delay coming in from the south this morning into Joburg. It's a stationary truck on the M1 inside the Deep Cliff interchange. The traffic is now back through Devlin, back through Eldos, back on the N12 Potchefstroom Highway down to about the Golden Highway exit off the N12. So if you're coming in from Protea, Glen, Lenasia, think about reroutes through Soweto or out through Aikenoff this morning to meet what is a very big backlog. Some queues coming into Galilee's N12 and R24 routes in from the east, very slow. And the N1 south in Pretoria, you've sort of got away with it. it this week, but not this morning. It's a big backlog coming from Atterbury Road all the way through towards the R21. Still a crash in on Durban's N2 heading towards the south coast. That's a couple of vehicles that have collided. Quite a big crash down by Umlazi. Traffic is backing up beyond the Higginson Highway M1 exit, so that's very heavy. Cape Town, the N2 inbound, queuing up from Robert Sobukwe through towards the Unsmart Drive exit. There's a stationary truck on that route before you get to Jakes Covell Drive. And Jakes Covell from Vangate Mall, badly backed up all the way through to Viking Way. There's some load shedding as you make your way through Langa and Epping. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
8 after 7, good morning. Friday morning, you with SAFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. Lots to come. Well, that truce beginning to take hold in Gaza, and obviously many people are really just hoping that there will now be peace in that area. Let's see what happens. We'll touch on that a little bit because it may affect some of our coalition politics. This is the relationship between the Patriotic Alliance and the ANC. Also, the Labour Department and Thulas Ngesi's response, the Minister's response to the claims against him. We'll ask about the UIF Commissioner. All of that to come. Don't forget, by the way, from 8:30, your story of the week. What happened to you this week? You really do want to book your spot now. I suspect we might be quite busy today. So you want to book your spot now with Standra and Mdu on 086 000 2032.
Get ready for an adventure of a lifetime with SABC TV Licenses Ultimate Competition. Feel the pulse-pounding excitement of a Bundesliga match live on an all-expenses-paid journey you'll never forget. Or embrace the rhythm of your dreams at the Coachella Music Festival. The choice is yours. A football fan's paradise or a music lover's haven. Simply pay your TV license, then head to www.winnerholidaywithsabctvlicenses.co.za for a chance to win big. And don't forget, there are incredible weekly prizes up for grabs too. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
Did you hear that? That's the sound of lights being switched off to reduce the impact of load shedding. Eskom is encouraging you to use less electricity at all times by switching off electrical appliances and lights that are not in use. Cell phone chargers, TVs, and decoders still use electricity if they're not switched off at the socket. You see, if we all switch off what is not in use, our combined effort could help reduce the impact of load shedding. Let's work together by switching off to reduce load shedding.
Nothing beats the exhilarating atmosphere of Joburg's hottest horse race. This is the People's Race. It's not a sport, it's a lifestyle with a great sense of fashion and a jubilant scene to party and celebrate. Experience the Summer Cup on Saturday, 25 November at 3:50 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Across South Africa, online and on radio. SAFM, let's talk.
11 after 7, good morning. Well, so many different things going on. The Patriotic Alliance says it won't change its stance on the conflict in Israel and Gaza, despite the ANC saying that if it doesn't change its policy, the two parties will no longer be able to work together in cities like Joburg and Ekurhuleni. As I understand it, the PA strongly supports Israel. This is in the conflict between Israel and Hamas. As you know, 14,800 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli actions. 1,200 Israelis were killed by Hamas's attack on Israel. Meanwhile, the Patriotic Alliance also holding its 10th anniversary celebrations this weekend. The president of the Patriotic Alliance is Gayton McKenzie. Gayton, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen. Thanks for having me.
As I understand it, the ANC actually gave you an ultimatum on this. Are you going to change your view?
No, we're not going to change our view. We are a sovereign party. There's a lot of things, and we take our own decisions. There are a lot of things that we as the Patriotic Alliance are in total disagreement with the ANC. But we will never have the audacity to tell another party what they should believe in. Then we might as well become one party. So yeah, it's very simple. We are never going to be told by another party, including the ANC, what to do and who to support and who not to support.
Do you believe they'll actually go through with it? Do you believe they'll end the coalition agreements with you?
I expect anything from the ANC. So if they go through, that's just that. But one must have principles. If you believe in something, you mustn't change your principles based on what you might lose And we as the Patriotic Alliance are never going to be told to support Hamas and to have friendly relations with Hamas.
Do you believe Israel has a right to do what it's doing in Gaza?
No, I don't believe. You see, the mistake that we first make is that this is not a zero-sum game. You people in the media and everybody else seem to treat this as a zero-sum game, that you're either for Israel and against Palestine or for Palestine and against Israel. What I'm saying to you is that we believe in a two-state solution. We believe that the Palestinians have a right to exist. We believe that Israel has a right to exist, and I think they can coexist. Why is it that when I grew up, we were brought up with a staple food that white people should basically be killed and we're going to drive them back to the sea? And the day when Mandela said, we're not going to do that, I mean, many of us were disappointed, including myself. But we learned what great leadership is. Great leadership brings people together, put them around the table. I mean, you look at the Rugby World Cup the other day, how I just looked at it and I thought, are these really the same people that we were singing we're going to drive them back to the sea? One settler, one bullet, killed the boer, killed the farmer. We used to sing those songs, all of us. People can deny that all they like. But what brought us here was dialogue, and we want to give the same courtesy to the Israeli Palestinian people.
Okay, so Israel's wrong to kill 14,800 Palestinians. The Hamas attacks are wrong, sure. I accept your view on that, but you also believe Israel is wrong here.
What I'm believing is, like, listen, if I'm president of this country, and let's say I'll make example with Lesotho, for instance, for lack of better country. Lesotho comes and kill people here in South Africa and abduct some. I will chase them. I will go for them. Because you see, there's no country in the world, I don't care what you guys say, that can have 1,200 of the innocent women and children being killed in their houses, not even on the battlefield. And that country does nothing. It is just an impossibility. So what you are seeing is a bigger story happening in the Middle East. We are to increase the peace. When children die, there's no Palestinian, there's no Israeli. People died on both sides, and it is wrong. It is regrettable. It shouldn't have happened. These people must come to the table. Israel must come to the table. I just read now that humanitarian truce has been reached, and we support that. But I'm not going to sit here and expect. I'm never going to expect a man to do something I will not do. If you come and I lead this country, and you come and you go into houses and kill people and do all of those things. I was in Israel. Let me tell you something. I saw how many missiles are being shot also from Palestine. So we mustn't act here. No, let me just finish. We mustn't act here like it's a one-sided thing. Both countries are wrong by fighting. Both.
Okay, but there is also the issue of proportionality. 14,800 Palestinians. I mean,
do you know? Firstly, what the Israelis are good at is protecting themselves. If those missiles, if there was no Iron Dome, for instance, in Israel, do you know Israel built the Iron Dome while Hamas in Palestine built tunnels to protect only the Hamas soldiers and not the population. You know that 20% of the missiles being shot to Israel land in Gaza, and they're killing Arabs there in Gaza. So I'm just saying that. Are we now going to say, by starting to count, is just that this is wrong, it should stop. This thing should stop from both sides.
Right.
And South Africa has been non-aligned in Russia and Ukraine. What happened we've been told by the South African government, we are non-aligned, we want to be the country that they come to and they want to make peace. What is different now?
Right, Gayton, I think we've heard you on this issue now. Your celebrations this weekend, the Orlando Stadium, your friends, the EFF, were able to fill the FNB Stadium. Are you going to be able to fill up Orlando Stadium?
Yeah, no, you see, for us, I hear people, there was somebody that actually said, oh, you guys are going to stadium because EFF has been going to stadium. I have grown up political parties going to stadiums long before I or Malema was born. Stadiums is where people would celebrate stuff. So I think we're going to fill it up. We are the fastest growing political party in the country. And we are also the one that's basically the most underestimated, which is good for us. We are going to fill that stadium. Our people are going to come from all over. We bring the Cape Flats. We bring the northern areas to Soweto today and tomorrow. It's going to be a party.
Gayton McKenzie. All right, on that note, thank you. President of the Patriotic Alliance, 18 after 7.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng.
I reflected on the lives of these men and said, Steve Biko could have been a medical doctor. Aubrey Mokwape, they could have been medical doctors, but for the sake of me and many others, they chose a path of justice. What challenges me all the time is there are multitudes out there who are unemployed, who are uneducated, people who from time to time go to bed without food. This is an opportunity to use this privilege, to use this position for the advancement of the cause of justice, because there is so much more that still needs to be done out there.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Open the Absa Cash Invest Tracker account and earn the best rates in the market, more than the top 10 money market funds' average returns. Enjoy unmatched advantages at an interest rate of 8.9% per annum. Plus, if you open your account today, you could win your share of 15 million rand in luxury travel experiences for two. Yes, you heard right. A trip for you and your partner. My Bank does that. Open yours today in less than 5 minutes on the banking app, at your nearest Absa branch, or consult your private banker or call 0860 111 515. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
It all comes together with a great partnership.
Thank you for demonstrating that indeed you are proudly South African.
Africa Borwa witnessed a great Rugby World Cup France 2023 because of your incredible support.
Great friends, great prize, and great sport.
Asibonge Casalaga. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
20 after 7, good morning. The Minister of Labour and Employment, Thuliso Nxesi, now confirming he's going to court to force Mthunzi Ndwaba to put up evidence of the claims he's made, that Nxesi and two other ministers tried to solicit a bribe from him. Ndwaba was one of the prime movers in a deal last December that would see the Unemployment Insurance Fund giving his company 5 billion rand. The idea was to buy shares in private companies to encourage them to employ more people. Ndwaba formed his own company just days before the deal. Nxesi says when he heard about the deal, he stopped it. I must point out in that so far as I know, Ndwaba's given no public evidence of his claims against Nxesi and two other ministers. Also, he only made the claims against these ministers after the deal was stopped. He said nothing about it before that. Dr. Alec Moemi is the Acting Director General in the Department of Employment and Labour. Dr. Moemi, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to the listeners of SAFM.
What action is the Minister taking? What does he actually want to do here?
The Minister seeks to have the contract that has been signed between TUJA and the Department of Employment and Labour to be set aside by a competent court of law. And to that extent, the Minister has filed papers yesterday with the view of asking the court and to seek relief on a self-review basis, and secondly, to also request the court to seek the evidence Mr. Ndwaba proffers and argues that it is there, that he produces it because his argument primarily is that supposedly the deal has been stopped purely because a bribe has been solicited, and we would be interested to get to the bottom of that as much as he says he has that evidence.
So you want Ndwaba to stop doing interviews and actually to put it on affidavit, to either prove it or to stop making the claims?
Of course, I think the statements would be libelous in a country where unemployment is this rife. Stephen, you could imagine that this is a very dangerous proposition to say some ministers or a minister or group of ministers have actually stopped a project intended to employ people. And if there is a revolt, we are sitting with a mess on our hands. And I think to that extent, he's got to make good on what he says or forever hold his peace.
There's another person involved in this, the Commissioner of the Unemployment Insurance Fund, Tebogo Marapeng. He sent emails about this deal, and he was clearly involved. We've had him on recently, about 4 weeks ago. He's refused to answer our questions about this. He skipped yesterday's briefing as well. What's happening with him?
Well, he remains an employee of the UIF. As we know, the investigation has taken place. It has also looked into his matter, and we are at the process of where the report is currently being processed, and it will be shared with all the implicated parties. And they have, by law, we have to follow due diligence, and they've got to pronounce themselves in as far as the findings are concerned. And we will take appropriate steps based on the considerations that would have been made based on their own representations and submissions. Him too is involved in that process.
How long is it going to take until you know if there's proper evidence against him, until there's actually finding one way or another?
Well, Stephen, I think it will be tantamount to putting a cart before the horse, because genuinely in terms of law, we've got to genuinely consider the representations all those that are implicated have got to make. I don't think that we would be in a position prior to that has happened, and that what has been proffered to us has been duly considered, that we are in a position to pronounce the duration or the timelines or any other thing, because it may be well that his actions or his involvement is clarified, and the explanations or representations he may give us may actually absolve him. We do not know. So I think it's best that we follow due process in this regard, and we respect the spirit and the letter of the law.
So I understand all of those things, Dr. Moemi, but it's clear he was involved. I mean, if you just look at the reporting in the Sunday Times, the direct quotes from the emails, and the deal was so wrong that on your own minister's version, the moment he heard about it, he stopped it. In fact, he's now going to court to make sure that it stopped, right? So there's clearly a case to investigate Marapeng, and the point then comes to this. Is there not a case to suspend him now? Yes, let him go to court. But isn't there a case to suspend him now? He won't even answer questions about it when it's clear he knows what he did, you know. So there must be a case to suspend him now.
No, Stephen. It's easier for you to say that it's clear and you quote the Sunday Times. But in terms of labor laws, our country does not operate the way you are saying it ought to operate. The laws are there, and I think the worst thing that we can do is that on procedural matters, that we botch the process, and that before even the merits can actually be entertained, that the court throws this out of the window because we have actually been procedurally unfair. I think the public should please allow us space to do the right thing and to follow the right processes and the right prescripts in this regard, and ensure that we do not botch this process. We do it so well that at the end of the day, whatever outcome is there is an outcome that could live the test of time and can also face up to scrutiny.
The UIF has huge problems. It's got a surplus, got a big surplus actually, but people can't get their money out. And Dr. Moemi, it's not very often that COSATU and Business Unity South Africa agree, but on this they agree. There are problems at the UIF. Don't those problems need to be fixed?
They do, and in effect, we have commissioned PricewaterhouseCoopers, which has now given us its report on the architecture of both the funds, not just UIF, also the compensation fund faces similar challenges, and we have accepted the outcomes of that, and we have now begun in earnest to roll out the recommendations we have been given in as far as ensuring that we actually re-engineer our business processes and ensure that we digitize most of these processes. We have begun, and the service providers appointed are now hard at work at rolling out what we have been advised that it will be best and appropriate to deal with such challenges and maladies that we have seen, which are totally unacceptable.
Dr. Alec Mwemi, thank you. Acting Director General in the Department of Employment and Labour. 27 after 7.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. Richards Bay is even in your news this morning.
Yes, shame. They are struggling a bit. Their coach, Keitano Tembo, urging his side to bury their goal-scoring chances as the Natal Rich Boys prepare to take on Orlando Pirates. DSTV Premiership action at the Kings Wellatini Stadium tomorrow afternoon. 3:30 is the kickoff. The Natal Rich Boys are amongst the worst performing teams in the league, and that is during this campaign. They occupy 15th spot on the table. Tembo's side accumulated just 9 points from 12 matches played so far, bagging 2 wins and 3 draws along the way. Elsewhere, FIFA's Chief of Global Football Development, Arsene Wenger, visited India to promote the development of soccer in the world's second most populous country. Part of his duties saw the former Arsenal manager launch the groundbreaking talent development scheme.
That's why basically I'm here. To identify the talent, to educate the talent, to give them a good level of competition, and to integrate India amongst the best teams in the world. The potential is there, the talent is there. It's down to the quality of what we will do.
Moving to the England star, Ben Stokes has opted out of next year's Indian Premier League cricket tournament to manage his workload and fitness. Stokes was brought by the Chennai Super Kings for $1.96 million ahead of this year's auction before the team went on to win a record-equaling 5th IPL title. The England Test captain played only as batsman in the recent ODI World Cup and revealed he will undergo knee surgery after the tournament to be fit for the Test series in India. That's in January. And motorsport, 7 times world champion Lewis Hamilton says that Red Bull boss Christian Horner contacted him over a meeting, not the other way around, which was claimed by Horner. Hamilton was speaking ahead of the season finale Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
I have not approached Christian. I haven't spoken to Christian for years. And no one from my team has, I've checked with everyone, no one from my team has reached out to him. However, he had reached out to me early in the year about meeting up at the end of the season. And I was like, hope you're well, wish you all the best, and congratulations on an amazing season so far, and I hope that I'm able to compete with you in the near future.
Max Verstappen says he doesn't see a reason to comment on Lewis Hamilton almost becoming his teammate.
There's no point to make up stories if it's not happening. So, yeah, I wouldn't mind. Doesn't matter. Anyone. Yeah, I don't want to put it like now particularly on Lewis. There are so many great drivers as well. So, yeah, sometimes it just doesn't work out like that.
More sport on Sunrise Headlines, top of the hour. I'm Zai Khan.
Can't wait for the transfer window to close. Zai, thanks very much indeed. We'll talk electricity as we're still at stage 4. That coming up in the next half hour. You're with SFM leading the conversation. Stage 4 until further notice, 7:30.
Good morning. In the headlines, Oscar Pistorius will know his fate at his second parole hearing today. The former Paralympic athlete and convicted murderer made an application for parole in March this year but was denied. Pistorius will now appear before the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board for the Kgosimampuru prison for his second attempt to be released. The Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi has confirmed that an individual seeking immunity has anonymously accused him of corruption. And Johannesburg Waters urge residents to use water sparingly as the heatwave continues in parts of South Africa. I'll have details on these and other stories at 8.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy coming into Joburg from the south this morning. Motorists in from Grasmere, Eldos, Lenasia, Protea Glen. They take the N1 through Diepkloof interchange, stuck in heavy pressure from the N12 Potchefstroom Highway all the way into that Diepkloof interchange and passing a stationary truck. It's a big queue on your way through towards Uncle Charlie's this morning. The N1 south in Pretoria, probably the busiest run through that we've had in the mornings for peak time. It's backed heavily from Linwood Road down towards the R21. You've got away with it this week, but if you're thinking thinking today is going to be like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's not. It's really heavy. M1 South, Linwood to R21. Durban, the crash in at the N2 South at Umlazi. Looks like it's almost out of the way. That traffic is starting to flow rather than back up heavily as it was before. The N2 North is heavy from the M7 up through towards the M13 roadworks. Once you get past that, the run further towards the airport, up towards King Shaka is clear. Cape Town, you're going to be asked to sit in heavy traffic today on Jan Smuts Drive. If you come out of Athlone and you go up to work in Epping, or you go round to work at Old Mutual or the back way of Pinelands, it's heavy from Cromboom Road all the way up through the N2, all the way up through sort of Epping towards Viking Way. Really big queues there. The alternative, the N7, Jake Scoville Drive, just as bad. There's some load shedding in Lunga and Epping. Jake Scoville this morning, queues from Turfall or Klipfontein Road, and then all the way through towards about Gunners Circle and Viking Way. Very heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
The business update on SAFM.
Here's Ray Machlaka, Asian markets, US markets.
It is US markets that are leading with gains. Investors are hopeful that interest rates in the US will not increase for the rest of 2023 and in early 2024. Central bank officials agreed that they would proceed carefully and only increase interest rates in the US if the consumer inflation rate does not increase. US markets were closed yesterday for the Thanksgiving holiday, and before the US market officially opens later today, the futures market is mostly up. Nasdaq, Dow Jones and S&P futures are each up 0.2%. In Asian markets, Japan's Nikkei is up 0.8%. China's Shanghai Composite is down 0.4%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng is also down 1.6%. And our market, the JSE, was up 1% yesterday. The shares of mining companies were the biggest gainers of the day. Eskom expects a financial loss of 23.2 billion rand in 2024. This is according to Eskom acting CEO Caleb Kasim, who is cited in Business Day. It will be another year that Eskom records a financial loss. However, the loss of 23.2 billion rand will be an improvement. In 2023, Eskom recorded a financial loss of 24 billion rand. Eskom blackouts and the burning of diesel to run the power utilities emergency generation fleet will continue to harm Eskom's financial situation. Also, Eskom is struggling to recover electricity payments from municipalities across the country. Mr. Price expects its profit to drop by 9.3% during the 6 months ending September 2023. This is due to Eskom blackouts. Mr. Price has lost 60,000 trading hours over 6 months because of electricity disruptions. This resulted in Mr. Price losing sales worth 190 million rand.
Ray Machlaka, thank you. More business news through the day.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Let's start with Moses in Bramley. Moses, hi. You heard the conversation with the Acting Director General of the Labour Department. Moses? All right, Moses in Bramley. Not with us this morning. Moses, there you are. Hello. Moses.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Yes. No, we are in.
All right, Moses, I'm going to ask you to call back. I'm sorry we can't hear you. Jock in KwaZulu-Natal. Gayton McKenzie, you heard that conversation.
Yes, good morning, Stephen. How are you?
I'm well. Go for it.
Okay, I want to first tell you that my daughter was so upset that she couldn't hear me and you were having a conversation on the radio because she had to get dropped off at school. And
I'm sorry.
And the rest of your team, the background team, that, you know what, we really appreciate the show that they create, as well as yourself. Thank you so much for what a wonderful show you'll have.
Thank you, Jock. That's very kind.
Okay, I just wanted to say something on the matter that Mr. McKenzie was talking about in the Middle East. I agree with him on one statement that we have to fundamentally understand. It was only 19 people that brought down the Twin Towers in 2021. So being fair in terms of the number of people that die is not going to ever equate itself in any war. the British killed more Germans in the Second World War, and the 19 terrorists brought down 2 towers and killed more than 5,000 people. So unfortunately, as much as we'd like to have wars equal, sometimes there are always sides that are stronger than the other, or sometimes sides that are willing to take chances or acts that are more violent than we initially interpret and stuff like that. The other thing I'd like to just mention while you're on the line, if you look at most of the pro-Palestine material that's coming out on social media and on WhatsApp, it's getting a bit rife and it's going into a lot of other things. It goes now to say that they are aligning with apartheid, which is not really true. I saw a statement that said, no, India actually sent 2,000 soldiers to Kashmir. That has nothing to do with the facts of what's happening in Palestine as well. And what Mackenzie said was true. These are civilians that people actually went, ambushed, kidnapped. And I've never, ever saw people align themselves with kidnappers. So just on those matters, I mean, we still got to stick with the facts. Unfortunately, we don't like it. But we got to understand what could we do if that was our mother, child, daughter. And to be honest with you, like I said, I just dropped my daughter off at school. If anybody had to threaten her, whatever means possible, I would defend her life. I mean, I wouldn't mind the repercussions that I might go to prison for it is never going to come to my mind at that point in time when someone threatens her, tells me I'm going to kidnap her or murder her or do something to that effect. I promise you, all morality goes out of the window. Unfortunately, that's just human nature, unfortunately.
All right. No, Jock, important comments. Thank you. In regards to your daughter, please tell her we say hello. Thank you. Look, I've seen two separate, I've seen two separate professors of international law talking about this issue. And one says that if someone is kidnapped, you can do almost anything to get them back. The other says that proportionality is important. You can't go and kill 1,000 people to get one person back, for example. And this is a debate that we can have. I mean, it is an argument that we can have. Personally, I do think that proportionality matters, but that's just me. Jock and KwaZulu-Natal, thank you. All right, Moses, I think we have you back now. You heard the Labour Department Director General.
Yeah, Stephen, when you listen to these guys, you'll definitely become hopeless. These seem to be guys who are protecting one another, who are dilly-dallying about the issue that we definitely know what transpired. So, I mean, coming on the radio and try and not giving us the fact, sometimes it's wary that when you give these guys platform, we know exactly they're going to spin almost as. So, yeah, the UIF, it's a problem, Steve. Yeah. People who actually supposed to be benefiting from that kitty, they are now to post when they need to claim. Whereas there are people who are plotting, who are seated somewhere, giving each other calls that there's 100 billion. How can we definitely started to chow this 100 billion?
All right,
and nothing, there's no consequences.
Yeah, Moses and Bramley, thank you. I mean, I appreciate the point about process that came from the Acting Director General, but I think, I think that there's also a lot to say about moving quickly. Moses, thank you. Errol and Etequini, hi. Israel and Hamas.
All right. Can you hear me, Stephen?
Yes, Errol, go for it.
Okay. You know that I believe that Israel must be charged by the ICC for the killing of women and children and innocent people, especially at bombing the children's hospitals. Okay, but Hamas too must take part of the blame for using these people as human shields. You know, they put them in the hospitals, especially the children's hospitals. They hide behind them in the schools and shelters. I reckon they must also take part of the blame. And I mean, Russia would never do this. If they were attacked by a foreign country, they wouldn't use people as human shields. As much as I don't like what the Russians are doing now. And they must also be charged.
All right, Errol in Durban, thank you. It comes back to something, and I've heard accounts of this, of an interview. I see there are various people who've made this point. Would Israel do the same if, would it sort of bomb areas in which Jewish people were in hospitals, for example? Would they do that or not? I mean, and we can go in lots of different directions. You're with SAFM, it's 18 minutes to 8.
at SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies invites interested individuals and stakeholders to submit written comments on a bill, the purpose of which is to regulate the South African Broadcasting Corporation SOC Limited Bill. The bill seeks to repeal the Broadcasting Act of 1999 to regulate the continued existence of the SABC, to provide for its governance, to amend the Independent Communications Authority Act and the Electronic Communications Act, and to provide for matters connected to that. Inquiries can be directed to the Portfolio Committee on Communications and Digital Technologies for the attention of Hajir Rasali, or emailed to sabcbill@parliament.co.za. There's also a Google form on the website. In addition to the written submissions, you can indicate if you're interested in making a verbal presentation to the committee. The closing date for written submissions is Friday, the 15th of December at 4:30. A copy of the bill can be obtained from Hajira Sali, and you can email her, or you can go to www.parliament.gov.za.
Get ready for an adventure of a lifetime with SABC TV Licenses Ultimate Competition. Feel the pulse-pounding excitement of a Bundesliga match live on an all-expenses-paid journey you'll never forget. Or embrace the rhythm of your dreams at the Coachella Music Festival. The choice is yours. A football fan's paradise or a music lover's haven. Simply pay your TV license, then head to www.winaholidaywithsabctvlicenses.co.za for a chance to win big. And don't forget, there are incredible weekly prizes up for grabs too. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
The Northwest Provincial Legislature Portfolio Committee on Economic Development, Environment and Tourism, Agriculture and Rural Development will conduct public hearings on Northwest Gambling Amendment Bill 2022 and Northwest Consumer Affairs Bill 2019 on 28 November 2023 at Barolombo Ratloubakasitsiro Community Hall in Kunwana, Kakala Community Hall in New Doornstad, Kismet Hall in Vryburg, and Moretele Community Hall in Moretele. All public hearings start at 10.
RSB Berkane understand the value of 3 points, but Sekhukhune United are targeting the same prize. The Moroccans aim to exhilarate their fans with victory. Meanwhile, Babina Noku are on a mission to elaborate that they mean business. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Catch RSB Berkane and Sekhukhune United this Sunday, 26 November at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation invites interested individuals and relevant stakeholders to submit written comments and indicate interest in making oral submissions on the Statistics Amendment Bill. The bill seeks to amend the Statistics Act by, among others, dealing with the powers and duties of the Statistician General and to strengthen coordination and enhance collaboration amongst data producers and data users. Written submissions on the bill must be directed to Nomakhoza Moe and addressed to the Portfolio Committee on Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation. That's 3rd floor, 90 Plain Street, Cape Town, 8000, or email to sab@parliament.gov.za by no later than the 24th of November 2023.
Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
Well, as you know, stage 4 load shedding until further notice. And of course, the Minister of Electricity, Khonsenso Ramakgopa, has been going through various power stations as well this week. He was at Medupi this week trying to look at the situation there. There's also been big conferences this week about our electricity situation. Professor Samson Mampwedi is at the SA National Energy Development Institute, SANEDI. Professor Mampwedi, good morning.
Stephen and the listeners.
Firstly, stage 4 load shedding coming back, I think, for many people as a little bit of a shock. We've now had it for 2 days. That would suggest that actually it might be with us for a bit longer.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and the biggest problem has been the fact that Eskom has not been able to keep the breakdowns at various power stations, below 14,000 megawatts. The breakdowns are quite high, sitting at about 17,000 megawatts. So that has been the biggest problem. And the challenge is that most of this coal fleet was not properly maintained in the past, and when the Eskom does maintenance, they fix here and something breaks elsewhere or in the same unit when they return it back to service. So that has been the challenge.
As I understand it, one of the problems is at Medupi. Now, that's a new power station, and yet we still have these problems, and we had 2 of the units come back on. Now it seems that there are problems there.
Yeah, Medupi and Kusile had design flaws that Eskom worked very hard to try and deal with. It was built, the construction also took too long because of some of those design flaws and other aspects. That we've talked about in the past. So those design flaws are the ones that continue to give problems at the moment. It's a new power station that shouldn't be giving us problems. So that's the main issue around Medupi, and Eskom just need to get it right, and then we can be able to get the benefits out of it.
There's a whole lot going on around car power ships at the moment, Professor Mampwedi. I'm sure you've seen it. We spoke to car power ships last week. They obviously have still paperwork to do, but they've been given permission to produce power at Richards Bay. I understand in the last 24 hours, at least 2 environmental groups have appealed that decision to the Environmental Affairs Minister. There's a report in Business Day this week as well suggesting that, in fact, government or the Public Enterprises Department is saying if these people like car power ships and others under the Emergency Power Procurement Program don't start producing power by the end of the year, they would lose their grid allocations at Eskom. Quite difficult to put it all together, but do you think the car power ships deal will actually happen if that sort of deadline is in fact being set?
Yeah, it's difficult. It's a difficult one to say whether it will happen within this particular timeline. This is something that has been going on for quite a long time, and it had quite a lot of problems or a lot of challenges. From the costing to the long terms. It's not the long term, the project term, which was initially an emergency procurement that then became a 20-year deal with the potential to cost South Africa quite a lot of money. And then there were environmental issues. But coming back to the environmental issues, the main thing around the environmental issues is that the environmental groups are within their rights to raise concerns. What then becomes of government and the project developers is to properly respond to those concerns and put measures in place to ensure that those concerns are catered for in their environmental management program. As an example, one of the biggest issues that has been raised was the fact that the car power ships use draw water from the ocean and then use it to cool down their turbines. And then when they return the water back to the ocean, they return it at higher temperature, which then leads to a higher temperature, water temperature where they are situated. And then that leads to a lot of other environmental issues. Now, in terms of that, in the environmental management program, they need to basically ensure that they've got a cooling system in place for the water, so that when it goes back at room temperature, and then it doesn't have those kind of problems. In terms of the the term of the project, I've heard car power ships saying that they are prepared to go on a 5-year term, and they will just revise it down in terms of also the costing. That's a positive kind of a thing that they need to do, but they need to properly respond to the environmental concerns instead of what I've picked up around people just saying, no, these are people who don't even know what they're talking about and things like that. We shouldn't be doing that. We should be engaging them, because according to law, we have to engage the environmental groups, we have to engage the community and ensure that we're on the same page in terms of what we're doing.
Professor Samson Mampwedi, thank you. From the SA National Energy Development Institute. Do appreciate the time. 9 minutes to 8.
SAFM. guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Super heavy on Pretoria's N1 this morning. You've got away with it this week, first 4 days, but here we are Friday, which you may be expecting a lighter volume day, but certainly not on the M1. It is heavy this morning from just after the N4, Emelathleni Highway, right down to those roadworks by the R21. Other side of Gauteng, the M1 North remains on a heavy queue coming from Devlin, Eldorado Park, all the way from sort of Potch Highway up to the N12 Southern Freeway. That's a broken down truck that's been with us this morning inside the Deepcliff interchange. That's why it stays so heavy. Durban, the big crash that we had earlier this morning, M2 going south at Umlazi, that's all being cleared up. There is some pressure north on the M4, the Southern Freeway, below Kongela up into the CBD, and the N2 stays heavy from the M7 through towards the M13 bridge and into the roadworks. Pietermaritzburg to Durban, let's just get you an update. There's a little bit happening there. There's a stationary truck on your way to Pietermaritzburg before Umlas, so a bit slow from Camperdown, and there's a crash around the Linfield Park area as well. That seems to be just having a bit of a slowdown on the Durban-bound carriageway. And then Cape Town this morning, if you use that Jan Smuts Drive to get from Athlone up to work at Old Mutual and Epping, factor in some heavy queue time. Jan Smuts under pressure from Klipfontein Road right through to sort of Gunners Circle, just ahead of the Viking Way junction. And the N7 nearby is under some real pressure as well. On the run through towards Goodwood, coming from Mitchell's Plain, you'll sit from Vangate Mall all the way through Lunga and Epping up towards Viking Way with some load shedding. About to wrap up at 8 a.m, but it stays heavy. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
SAFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
Life is full of challenges, and when they come your way, learn to whack your way through it.
Yeah.
My father and my mother were highly disciplined people. I remember him saying, I have decided to deny myself whatever others are enjoying, to accumulate enough money so that any of my children who wants to study would have the resources available to study so that they don't have to suffer the way I have had to suffer.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Black Friday is back at Dis-Chem, now for 9 days, from Wednesday 22nd to Thursday 30th November. Make the most of big offers and huge savings. Save 20% when you purchase a standard nylon wheelchair with plastic feetrest for just 1,727 Rand and 96 cents, in-store only. And get 15% off the Medic shower chair with armrest and backrest, now only 939 Rand 21 cents. Get down to Black Friday at Dis-Chem. Better health starts here.
Nothing beats the exhilarating atmosphere of Joburg's hottest horse race. This is the People's Race. It's not just sport, it's a lifestyle with a great sense of fashion and a jubilant scene to party and celebrate. Experience the Summer Cup on Saturday 25 November at 3:50 p.m. live on S3. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
First in the morning, SAFM Sunrise with Stephen Grootes.
5 minutes to 8 the time. Good morning to you. Well, there have been various reports and quite a few pictures, disturbing pictures over the last few days about more snakes being seen, and dangerous snakes. I'm talking about Cape Cobras. I mean, these things basically look like they're walking, and they come towards you. You've got puff adders, black mambas as well. Some of these very, very dangerous. Nick Evans is a snake handler, and he's been looking at this, particularly in KZN and Cape Town. Nick, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Morning. Thanks for having me on your show.
Why are we seeing so many snakes at the moment?
It's just the time of year.
All right, Nick, we seem to have lost you there.
A bit of a heat wave, so it's...
All right, we're going to try and get you back on a different line. Yeah, we're going to try and just get you back on a different line. Sorry about that. It doesn't seem to be working very well, but let's see if we're just able to get him back and just to understand the problems that we're having. Certainly the temperature does seem to play a role, which I find interesting. Nick, you're back with us. Sorry about that. You're saying the heat brings them out? Why is that?
Yeah, the heat brings they rely on heat for energy. The heat gives them energy. And this weather also brings out their food, especially in many parts of the country.
Right, Nick Evans, unfortunately, we're going to have to find another way to make contact with you. So interesting, variable quality on cell phone calls that we have. So sorry about that. Obviously, we do want to have a conversation around what exactly the situation is and what people are saying about snakes. I have to tell you, just personally, snakes are something that give me, what's the word, the heebie-jeebies. Snakes are something that if I see them, I'm like, no, I want nothing to do with that. Thank you very much indeed. Really don't need to have anything to do with snakes. Not a big fan. I know some people love them. I mean, clearly Nick's a snake handler. I imagine that he loves them, but I'm not someone who really likes snakes. All right, calls coming through this morning on 086 000 2032. We have WhatsApp voice notes coming through on 0614 104 107 as well.
Good morning, Stephen. I don't know why you guys are bothering interviewing these ANC politicians. They will never, ever in their lives prosecute one of their own. Never. Sipho, Northern Cape.
Sipho, thank you. I presume that's in response to the department. I'm presuming now that that's in response to the situation around the UIF. There's so many developments to it, and I've got to say, it just seems to me that surely there needs to be some kind of movement. And obviously there needs to be process as well, but you would think there needs to be some kind of movement on that story. Let's go to Chaka in Mangung. Chaka, hi.
Hi, Stephen. Stephen, I just want to react to Gayton McKenzie.
Oh, yes.
I think Gayton McKenzie he probably belongs to that kind of people that are ignorant of the situation in Palestine. And they choose ignorance. Because if you ignore history, you'll obviously choose ignorance. He makes an example of Lesotho. He said if the Lesotho people can come and... but the situation in Gaza is not like in Lesotho.
No, not at all. It's completely different.
Those are two sovereign states. Gaza is a prison. It's an open prison surrounded by walls, police 24 hours, and with entry points that are manned by the Israeli soldiers. They've got surveillance cameras all over. All the cell phones in Gaza are being monitored. And on the walls, there are 6-meter walls. The machine guns are mounted and so on. So that's by all intent and purposes a prison. What has control and exists control. Anything that happens in Gaza is controlled by Israel. So that is not a state. That's a prison. So you can't say if people break out of prison and attend the nearby army bases, then they say then it's a big deal because they want their freedom.
Sure.
Yeah, those people are freedom fighters who want to break out from the 50 years of living like prisoners under those.
So Chaka, look, I mean, I hear you about that. I mean, I think some people would say, okay, freedom fighters, and I know freedom fighters and terrorists. On the other hand, I don't think you can justify the sort of way that they attacked Israel either. I mean, I think we are allowed to sort of say there are problems on both sides.
Well, if they, like I say, take the same thing of prisoners. If you're a jailer, you are responsible for your prisoners, and they are under surveillance all the time. You identify those guys, they would carry out their attacks, and you arrest them. There have been several cases where Israel sent the tanks inside Gaza, and they bombed the areas, and then in that cases, 2,000, 3,000 people died. And then they identify those people. They didn't just murder everyone. If prisoners escape from prison, you don't bomb the entire prison.
Yeah.
So in this case, the whole prison, including children, they are being bombed because the few identifiable individuals that went out and attacked Israel.
No, sure. Chaka, I'm going to leave it there. I'm so sorry. We are out of time. It's a long conversation, as you know. You with SFM leading the conversation just after 8 o'clock. Outsurance will go out of their way to try and save you money on your car insurance. If they can't, ask for 500 Rand. SMS out to 38462. Now that's good news.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, a decision on Oscar Pistorius' parole hearing expected, and NEC files court papers to cancel UIF deal. Good morning. Oscar Pistorius will know his fate at his second parole hearing today. The former Paralympic athlete and convicted murderer made an application for parole in March this year but was denied. Pistorius will now appear before the Correctional Supervision and Parole Board for the Kgosimampuru prison for his second attempt to be released. He was sentenced to 13 years and 5 months in prison for killing his then-girlfriend Riva Steenkamp on Valentine's Day in 2013. Riva Steenkamp's family lawyer Tanya Kun says Riva's mother won't be opposing Pistorius' parole application.
So June is not going to attend the hearing in Pretoria. She is still in mourning. She's feeling the loss of Barry quite severely, but she has prepared a victim impact statement which will be read to the parole board. It's not an opposition, but it is a victim impact statement which the parole board will consider together with all the other information that has been placed before the parole board regarding Oscar Pistorius' profile.
The National Prosecuting Authority says it's hopeful that by Monday it will complete its investigation into an incident in which a Sibanye Stillwater mine employee stabbed a colleague to death. That's the day on which Boinehelo Lefifa will be back in the Western Area Magistrates Court in Gauteng. He abandoned his bail application when he briefly appeared in court yesterday. Lefifa took a selfie with the corpse and posted it on social media. He faces a charge of premeditated murder. Simpiwe Mabena reports.
Advocate Lwazim Zinyati, representing Lefifa, stated before the court that they are abandoning bail but did not state the reasons for changing minds. Meanwhile, the National Prosecuting Authority says they are hopeful that by the time they go back to court, the investigations will be done so the defense is prepared for the trial. NPA spokesperson Pindim Jonondwani says the investigations are at an advanced stage and should be concluded soon. Magistrate Carola Van Heeden at the Western Area Magistrates has transferred the case to the Regional Court for the 30th of January next year. Simpiwe Mabena, SABC News, Western Area Magistrates Court.
Labour Minister Thulas Nxesi has confirmed an individual seeking immunity has anonymously accused him of corruption. Meanwhile, Nxesi is set to file court papers to set aside the controversial R5 billion unemployment insurance fund jobs deal with Tuja Holdings. He briefed the media yesterday following allegations of his involvement in the UIF jobs deal saga with Mtunzi Mdwaba's Tuja Holdings.
Further allegations have been made apparently by anonymous individuals seeking immunity from past crimes committed. The allegation is that the former DG, Mr. Tobile Lamat, and myself colluded in legally siphoning off 3 billion rand from the LAP program. This flies in the face of Mr. Mdwaba's claims that I spent the last year pushing Mr. Lamati out of his position as DG. A strange way to treat a conspirator. On the last issue of this 3 billion, I'm happy that this will be investigated by the law enforcement agencies.
The Center for Human Rights Analysis and Research in Haiti says it's temporarily suspending its work due to what it calls an imminent danger to its staff. The head of the organization said it was being targeted by a criminal gang. The BBC's Warren Bull reports.
Gedeon Jean said he was alerted to the threat by a co-worker who'd been kidnapped and held for more than 2 weeks by the criminal group. He said the centre's reports had highlighted the close ties between crime, politics and the economy in Haiti and were putting a spotlight on what he called the real masters of the crime industry, a reference to the politicians and businessmen accused of financing Haiti's gangs. Security has collapsed in the Caribbean country since the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse 2 years ago, with a sharp rise in murders and kidnappings as criminal groups take control of large parts of Haiti.
And finally, US actor Jamie Foxx has denied allegations that he sexually assaulted a model. In a statement, representatives for the Oscar-winning call the claims completely baseless. In a lawsuit filed against Foxx, the plaintiff says the incident happened at a New York City rooftop restaurant in August 2015. Recapping the top story, Oscar Pistorius will know his fate at his second parole hearing today. The former Paralympic athlete and convicted murderer made an application for parole in March this year but was denied. For SFM News, I am Anne Musa.
And thank you. Those were the top stories for this hour. Don't miss out on the possible car insurance saving. SMS out to 38462 for a quote. Outsurance, where you always get something out. Even though Outsurance is not running an official Black Friday promotion, they've never been more committed to see if they could get you a monthly saving on your car insurance premium. If they can't beat what you're currently paying, ask them for 500 Rand cash or a massive 1,500 Rand if you've been claim free and with the same insurer for 3 years. SMS out to 38462. That's a monthly saving on your premium or the cash promise. That's out to 38462. You've got nothing to lose. SMS now. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP T's and C's apply.
A very good morning to you in your SFM sports headlines right now. It's soccer with Janine van Wyk. She's back in the Banyana squad as she chases an African record. And we also have Mamelodi Sundowns defender Grant Kekana. He says he is looking to lift the CAF Champions League trophy. We'll find out more just before 8:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good morning. Two major delays, both sides of Gauteng. The N1 coming out of Pretoria to Joburg stays heavy from the N4 Emelafeni Highway Linwood Road territory all the way down to the R21. And if you're driving in from Malaysia, Eldorado Park and Protea Glen, the N1 North up to Deepcliff remains heavy with the stationary truck inside the interchange. Big queues, N1 from the Potch Highway through to Uncle Charlie's. Breakdown on the N3 North at Modderfontein. Traffic heavy coming through from the Germiston side. Now, if you're on your way to Pietermaritzburg, a couple of issues there. One is a breakdown at Umlas Road and another is a crash just after Umlas Road. So two queues just north of Camperdown as you make your way through to Linfield Park territory. Cape Town this morning, Bosmansdam Road, very heavy coming out of Edgemead, Boertesak across Summer Greens. Some load shedding just moving into that area as well. The Smuts from Athlone, very heavy on the way through to Epping. Queues from Klipfontein Road all the way through to effectively Viking Way.
SAFM Sunrise. A vivid start to your day.
All right, good morning with SFM Sunrise. I'm Stephen Grootes. We'll be looking at the issue of water in just a moment. So hot in most of the Highveld at the moment that I think demand for water is just going through the roof. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We'll talk also, of course, about a really interesting case in the Western Cape around the reclamation of bodies, of the remains of people. Really interesting conversation. And don't forget, from 8:30, your story of the week. You might want to book your spot now on 086 000 2032. What for you is the biggest story of the week?
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng.
I reflected on the lives of these men and said, Steve Biko could have been a medical doctor. Aubrey Mokwape, they could have been medical doctors, but for the sake of me and many others, they chose a path of justice. What challenges me all the time is there are multitudes out there who are unemployed, who are uneducated, people who from time to time go to bed without food. This is an opportunity to use this privilege, to use this position for the advancement of the cause of justice, because there is so much more that still needs to be done out there.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. Gautrain is for the legends who make moves to save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield. It's for the bozzers who switch off the geyser when no one's home. And for our clever who get that there's food at home means exactly that. So when it comes to travel, make moves that save and pay from as little as 40 Rand from Sandton to Rhodesfield Station. Gautrain, for people on the move.
Second from the bottom, FC Köln confronts second from the top, Bayern München. The Billy Goats need a rapid plan to escape from the danger zone. Meanwhile, the Bavarians want to return to the summit. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the spectacular encounter between FC Köln and Bayern München this Friday, 24 November at 9:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
SAFM. prime time all day long.
11 after 8, good morning. Well, obviously the heat wave continuing across the Highveld, I suppose, until Monday, Tuesday. Very, very hot yesterday, going to be hot again over the weekend. Huge demand for water as a result. You know, all of the problems there have been with water in various parts of the country. The spokesperson for Rand Water is Makanosi Maru. Makanosi, good morning. Thanks for your time.
Good morning, Stephen, and good morning to your listeners.
What kind of problems are you finding at the moment? Are you able to keep up your water supplies in this heat?
Yes, we are, Stephen, but we also know that the heat wave, with regards to heat wave, it results in high consumption. So we are able to supply water as rainwater. I mean, we have exceeded our license as it is to ensure that municipal customers do have water.
And people like Joburg Water, are they then using the water effectively? Do you know they're getting all the water they're supposed to get from you? You're meeting your commitment to them.
Yes, we are. You know what? We are realizing that there is also high percentages of water loss, the non-revenue water, due to water leaks, illegal connections, and aging infrastructure of municipalities. So we have realized that, and we are requesting municipalities to really fix those leaks so that we have water, because non-revenue water is becoming an issue at the moment.
Yeah, we've seen a non-revenue water, I think it's 42% is the figure for Gauteng. The international sort of global best standards around 15%.
That's correct.
Do you know if anyone's making progress on that? Fixing leaks is an expensive thing to do. This maintenance hasn't been done properly for many years. Is there any indication that, despite everything you've been saying to these councils, that actually anything is changing?
Look, they are working towards changing. I can't speak on their behalf, but what I can tell you is that every morning we are meeting at 8 o'clock. We are meeting with the 3 metros just to assess where they are in terms of water consumption, their infrastructure, any demands, if there are any high demand for the peak season. So we are really engaging with them, and hopefully we'll get to a point where we think there are no leaks in the system.
And money? Are you getting paid properly by the councils? That can also be an issue from time to time.
Absolutely. We have realized that municipalities are really failing in terms of paying rainwater. There's an escalating debt that is owed by municipality, and they are failing to meet the agreement that we have signed. So we are owed over 4 billion by various municipalities.
Sure. So your request to people, to all of us, is to use as little water as we can, even though it's so hot.
That's a request. Please, we're saying adhere to water-saving tips in terms of really not watering your lawn by midday. We're saying there are levels that municipalities have introduced to the restrictions. So we're saying please adhere to your municipal restrictions and the bylaws.
Makanosi Maru, thank you. Spokesperson for Rand Water. I think more information coming from them through the day. But yeah, very hot on the Highveld at the moment, so please do take care with that. It's 14 minutes after 8.
At SFM Radio and at Stephen Grootes on Twitter.
Well, we know it's the time of year where we start planning the activities for the 16 days of activism against violence against women and children. And there's obviously there's a big march in Cape Town tomorrow that aims to sort of bring people together around this. The march, one of the people organising the march is Councillor Angus Mackenzie, who is a DA councillor in Bonteheerville. Councillor Mackenzie, good morning.
Good morning, Stephen, and it's great to chat to you again. Thank you.
What kind of march are you arranging tomorrow?
So I think what we've done, Stephen, is a lot of community activists, and I think this is where community activism is so key. In that community where you have people and individuals that don't necessarily have a seat at government, but are able to mobilize communities, are able to deal with the day-to-day issues and problems that communities sit with. These groups have now come together over the last few months and planned this gender-based violence march or protesting gender-based violence march tomorrow. I'm honored to be part of it. I'm honored to lead this march with them, because I think what has sadly happened, and specifically with these groupings, and they are a lot of crime watch groups in the city, is that a lot of the reports that they are receiving is gender-based violence reports where men are abusing women women, where they are hurting children, etc. So they are first-hand responders to a lot of what is going on. And so I think the frustration of the lack of policing, the frustration from a lack of a functional criminal justice system is really what has led this group of absolute community activists to now stand up and take this march to Parliament. I think it has also been driven by the fact that the president of the country has on numerous occasions made numerous promises about how there'll be no bail for rapists and how there'll be a much more a stricter hand on gender-based violence. And unfortunately, we've not seen any of those promises materialize. But what we have seen happen is the ongoing upward trajectory of gender-based violence within our community, Stephen.
So I agree on the one side, we obviously need the criminal justice system to work. We need the President's promises to be implemented. On the other side, we need men to change their behaviour. Marches like this, they go some way to doing that. But isn't that also really the problem, is changing men's behaviours in some cases, in many cases perhaps, changing men's views? I don't know if we're making any progress there.
Stephen, I absolutely agree with you. But what you are dealing with is a legacy of no repercussions for the action. So when someone gets away with something all the time, he's going to continue to do it. And he's going to change his own mindset. He's going to change his own view of life if there's no repercussions for his actions. So what you do need is a sort of line drawn in the sand that says from here and to no further, and have that heavy-handed approach, have that repercussions, have that no bail, have that strong arm from the criminal justice system comes in, because quite clearly, we need to do something about the mentality of men that involve themselves in gender-based violence. But if nothing happens to crime and nothing happens to criminals, that perpetuates, and therein sits the biggest problem.
Councillor Angus McKenzie, thank you. The DA Ward Councillor in Bontaheerville in Cape Town, 18 minutes after 8.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice Mogoeng Mogoeng. The theme of the lecture is constitutionalism and upholding the rule of law in South Africa. Has corruption and malfeasance eroded the moral fabric of the democratic dispensation? The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation.
Of Joburg's hottest horse race. This is the People's Race. It's not just sport, it's a lifestyle with a great sense of fashion and a jubilant scene to party and celebrate. Experience the Summer Cup on
was that he took these bones which had been found and gave them to the anatomy department of UCT. The remains belonged to people who were from the Khoikhoi or San groups. No one asked their families or anything like that about what should happen. Then UCT and officials at UCT very recently decided to go through some of the exhibits that they had and some of the remains that they had, and decided to see if they could track down the families and speak to the families about what should happen. And in fact, they were able to do this. They were able to speak to many of the relatives of the people who had actually died. And one of the families, one of the representatives of those families is with you now. Anthony Stearman Mitas is his name. Anthony, good morning, and thank you for your time this morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. It's an incredible story that, goes back into what was happening to your family members 100 years ago. How did it start for you? I presume someone from UCT communicated with you in some way and said, this is what we found.
Yeah, actually it came as quite a surprise to us as the family. So it all started back in 2017, when they found these remains at the university. The curator there found Dr. Vicky Gibbon. And then in terms of the heritage legislation, the university was compelled to went out on a public participation process. So they appointed somebody by the name of Mrs. Doreen February as a community development practitioner to actually go to Sutherland and try and speak to, local community leaders and see if they can find any family members that might relate to that same surnames that was found in the archival records of the Steermans and the Abrams family. And in a nutshell, that's where the journey started for us in October of 2018.
And the people who died, so the people whose remains we are talking about, how are they related to you? And I find this fascinating because, I mean, I've from time to time, once or twice in my life, come across, sort of distant relatives of mine and find myself, it's easy to say, oh, it doesn't matter, Stephen, you live in the 21st century, Stephen. But I found that it really does matter. How are they related to you?
Yes, it does matter. I think the biggest compelling thing for us that we found of that relates these family members back to us is the oral history amongst the elders. Because we had the archival records that indicated the where and the surnames, of these people, of the sacred human remains. And then we had the scientific evidence that the University of Cape Town embarked on as a request from the family to get more details. But I think the biggest component for us was the oral history of some of our elders in the family, who sadly won't join us today as we start this repatriation process today at the university and has befallen us. But they've shared the stories and growing up that they heard from their grandparents and their great-great-grandparents of where our family members were all scattered over the Sutherland Northern Cape area.
Do we know much about how your family members were living at the time, what they were doing?
Yes, so it's very interesting. So when we first embarked on this journey, we requested from the family side that a little bit more detail be shared with the family of how they grew up, actually what they did, how they lived at those times. You must remember we're talking about their remains were dug up between 1925 and 1927. So when they embarked on this scientific project to get more biographical details on the sacred human remains, and actually they use a teeth to extract these details. It's quite fascinating. And it indicated clearly that in the archival record, for instance, Klaas Steerman was captured as an untamed bushman that walked free in the parts of Sutherland in the Northern Cape. And history, it tells us that he was then captured. That's the brutal history of our country in South Africa. So he was then captured and then eventually enslaved to work on that farm, and very scientifically they could even, determine that he was working hard labor as a result of the muscle tones that he had, and most of them had during those times.
It's quite something to read that, someone you're connected to in that way was described in that way. And words are important here, but I mean, I'm lucky enough on one side of my family, there's a sort of family photograph from a very long time ago. And from time to time, you sort of walk past it and you see it and you look at it and you think, look at these people. In this case, I imagine they weren't photographs, but they've been able to do a facial reconstruction. Have you actually been able to look at your ancestor's face?
Yes, we've been able to do that as a result of this fabulous collaboration between the university and Face Lab. And we had a lady by the name of Catherine. She's now a doctor, a PhD, a Dr. Catherine Smith, who worked at Face Lab at the UK. And she did this as part of her PhD graduate studies because it's quite an expensive exercise to do as well. So then they used basically biographical detail in the analysis that came up of each of our ancestors' sacred human remains, and they could compile and put together a face to that based on the details that they got and the information that they had. And that was quite an emotional journey for us as a family, because they can resonate a picture. They say a picture tells 1,000 words, and then you can actually resonate and see some of the characteristics that we have in the family members. That was quite a fascinating and compelling thing to experience.
And today's ceremony, obviously there will be, I presume, a final resting place?
Yes, so eventually after 5 years, it took us 5 years to get to this point of this weekend. COVID automatically had its impact as well, but it took us basically 5 years. So the starting point today is where we will actually come and officially take the remains out of the heads of the university and take them tomorrow back to their home in Sutherland, where their souls will be laid to rest in a dignified and a respectful manner in Sutherland, and giving us as a family the opportunity to connect all over this country and reflect on our heritage and have a broader conversation in South Africa about identity.
Anthony, I don't know if I should call you Mr. Mitas or Mr. Steerman, considering what we've been talking about. I wish you luck, sir, and thank you for sharing your story with us. It's such an interesting story. I think many people are going to be thinking about it through the day. Thank you, and I wish you strength and luck through the ceremony.
Thank you very much, and thank you for showing interest in this story. We really do appreciate it as a family.
Anthony Steerman Mitas, who today will be bearing a long-lost ancestor, 28 after 8.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, good morning. What's happening with Banyana?
Well, the defender Janine van Wyk was one of the names in Desiree Ellis' squad for the upcoming Women's Africa Cup of Nations qualifier against Burkina Faso. Now, this call-up grants Janine van Wyk another opportunity to become the most capped African soccer player of all time, male or female. Banyana coach Desiree Ellis explains.
We will do our utmost best to get her those 2 caps. It's not just a record for her, but I think it's a record for women's football in the country. It's a record for SAFA, and a record for women's football on the continent. And here she was in the previous camp, and I was asked the question by the media, is there another opportunity? And I said, Burkina Faso, and here is the opportunity.
More soccer news, and Mamelodi Sundowns defender Grant Kekana is inspired by the African football glory and looks to lift the CAF Champions League trophy. The Sundowns star defender will hope to inspire his team to victory when they play in Sunday afternoon, and it's a big tournament for them as they look forward to taking on a team from the continent in the CAF Champions League. The match will be against Mauritania. It will be staged at Loftus Versfeld Stadium Sunday afternoon, kick-off at 3 p.m. Let's go to F1 now, where Abu Dhabi was the venue 2 years ago, where Red Bull's Max Verstappen controversially denied Lewis Hamilton a record 8th world title. Verstappen has won 18 races so far this season, with just Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz being able to break his stranglehold. Here's Verstappen explaining.
We had a crazy year, so it would of course be very nice, but at the same time also I'm very focused on what's ahead of me, and hopefully also next year we have a competitive car again. We can really continue that momentum that we can win more races. On street circuits, I think we are a bit struggling a bit more, like in Vegas also. Low speed is definitely not our strongest point in the car. Bumps, curbs as well. So that's definitely a big area where we can improve.
And finally, women's boxing, the undisputed world light welterweight champion Chantal Cameron says she isn't complacent ahead of her rematch against Katie Taylor in Dublin this Saturday.
I'm not complacent whatsoever, so that's why I put the work in. I trained harder than ever. I feel like it's the best camp I've had because I knew I'm going to be up against it. Katie seeking revenge, and I couldn't take that into my stride and think, it's going to be a walk in the park. It definitely isn't. So I know it's the fittest I've ever been.
We'll bring you more sport on SFM around 12:30. I'm Zai Khan.
Zai, thank you. All right, your story of the week, 086 000 2032. What for you is the most important story? What happened to you this week? You with SFM leading the conversation at 30.
Good morning. In the headlines, the former KwaZulu-Natal Regional Court President Eric Nzimande will be back in the Durban Magistrates Court in May next year. He appeared in court yesterday on 5 charges of corruption. Oscar Pistorius will know his fate at his second parole hearing today. The former Paralympic athlete and convicted murderer made an application for parole in March this year but was denied. And a ceasefire has come into effect between Israeli troops and Hamas fighters in Gaza after a shaky start. I'll have details on these and other stories at 9.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Yeah, still two very heavy delays running north around Joburg. It's the N1 up into Deepcliff, which remains heavy due to a stationary truck. It's been there all morning. It's the N1 North link through Deepcliff onto the N12 towards Uncle Charlie's. The backlog of traffic to the Potch Highway. And the N3 going north, a breakdown at Modderfontein Road and Edenvale. That's heavy coming through from Bedfordview via Galuli's. And the N12 and R24 is jam-packed coming from Ekurhuleni into Galuli's, trying to get into that N3. A couple of issues between Durban and Pietermaritzburg. If you're up towards Pietermaritzburg, having left Durban, queues from Camperdown up to a breakdown around Umlas Road, and there's a crash on the Durban-bound carriageway between Ashburton and Linfield Park. Durban's N2 still jam-packed both ways into Spaghetti Junction, although it is starting to ease. Although what we saw yesterday, the N2 North basically stays busy all day these days. Cape Town, some pressure on the N2 at Somerset West, traffic just queuing up into the Victoria Street Junction, and a lot of load shedding going on at the moment around Tableview Parklands area, down through Montague Gardens, across into Boortessuck, Century City, Maitland and Milnerton. So those big commuting areas off for the next couple of hours. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Catch the Insider SA this Monday evening at 6 as hip-hop star Kiddo CSA taps into the spirit of Africa.
So it's so inspirational.
Tenor Luvo Maranti and Lady Linda Davies join forces
to help young talents to be seen in the world.
And lending his bark to the campaign against bullying, canine celebrity Mr. Miyagi is a ferocious force for good. That's the Insider SA, Monday at 6. Repeat Saturday at 12 p.m. and Sunday morning at 10:30 on S3.
It all comes together with a great partnership.
Thank you for demonstrating that indeed you are proudly South African.
Africa Bora witnessed a great Rugby World Cup France 2023 because of your incredible support.
Great friends, great prize, and great sport.
Asibonge Casalaga. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
When something is in the heart, you really don't need to be checking as if it was something that was designed to facilitate your appointment. One of the things that I promised the nation was to make sure that transformation happens, with a view to ensuring that work is somewhat evenly distributed among whites, black people, and both black and white women. That is the one responsibility among many that I have pursued with everything within my heart.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
All right, your story of the week. Time now to hear from you. 086 000 2032. What happened to you this week? What is your story of the week? What for you is the thing that we need to focus on and need to discuss this week? Rian in Durban. Hi, good morning. President Ramaphosa in Richards Bay.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. You know, I wonder if you've seen these breakdowns next to the road where people are fixing their cars under very difficult circumstances, dangerous circumstances.
Yeah.
So that's the type of mentality that we're getting with our government. You know, that car had already been most probably shown indications of breakdown long before, but they leave it until it breaks down next to the road.
Oh, I see. To fix it.
Fixed very difficultly, more expensively, probably not as well as it should be, but that's how our government is working. Exactly the same with President Ramaphosa yesterday. You know, how long has this problem not been a problem? Yet he says, obviously there will be consequences, or consequence management, as they like to say. You know, when are we going to get some foresight? When are we going to get some planning? When are we going to get some implementation? That's the problem. But
right.
you know,
so you want people to do things.
You speak to the person next to the road, and they'll say, "Hey, but I've got a problem." my car's broken down, and now I'm in danger here. But why did he not act before? And exactly the same with Rand Water, with Eskom, with the list is endless.
All right, Rian, I can hear your frustration. I know what you mean. It is about maintenance, and Transnet were very clear with us earlier in the week that the problem was that work and investment hadn't been done before. We all know, of course, about the issues at Eskom. All right, Rian in Durban, thank you. Nigel in Durban, hi. Israel.
Yes, thanks. Good morning, Stephen. There's so much to say about Israel and Palestine. Excuse me, but I'll be as brief as possible. About Israel first. Of course it has a right to defend itself, especially against a ruthless terrorist organization like Hamas that slaughters 1,200 Israelis in, what was it, a day or two? However, to respond as Netanyahu does with such terrible ferocity, with the result now of, as you said, 14,800 civilians and counting, and most of them women and children, to respond like that, it loses Israel more and more sympathy, and people will say, well, perhaps they will, perhaps they won't. This is what I think, that Israel, yes, suffered terribly under the Holocaust, but if Netanyahu behaves himself in such a fascist, ruthless way, he's going to lose sympathy. The excuse is presumably that Hamas hides behind civilians, therefore we must attack their civilian emplacements or do nothing. As for Hamas, I think it's calculated that it must have calculated that Israel would respond in the way it has. Therefore, it would begin more and more to lose sympathy. And I think it calculates that the longer the war continues and the more the Palestinians suffer, the more they seem to be killed just for being Palestinians, just as Jews were killed for being Jews, the more possible it is for another party, another country, to come to Hamas's rescue, such as a powerful one like Iran. Yeah. I know Hezbollah is with Hamas already, but they're only Lebanon. Iran is really powerful. It's something to be worried about.
All right. No, Nigel, I think important points that you're making there. And I think, the issue of proportionality, which is what UN officials keep talking about, is proportionality. I think that's an important point. Nigel, thank you. Jack in Mpumalanga, your story of the week. Hi, Jack.
Hi, SG. Good morning. How are you, Put?
I'm well, man. Go for it.
My dear brother, my story of the week, it's very, very amazing. Listening to your sister station, ANC was announcing that they will be doing January 8 in Mpumalanga province.
Yeah.
And they are expecting about 100,000 youth members who will be flocking to the stadium to fill it up and etc. Stephen, we're sitting with 4 rural municipalities that are not creating jobs and suffering with water, sanitation, roads. We have rural schools that are also not being maintained now. When I look at it, it's just like this organization is bringing weight instead of action. There'll be just talks in the January 8th. So I would advise my youth, the youth members, to go with their CVs and drop them in the January 8th, so that by the premier, when they announce SOPA, then they will be getting their results.
Okay, so what you want is you actually want action on jobs, and you're saying that it doesn't.
There should be action, Stephen. We're sitting in a rural area where 50% people are not employed, and they are dying with Nyahupe in this rural of Mpumalanga.
Yeah, no, I hear that. All right, Jack in Mpumalanga, thank you. 08600002032, your story of the week, and of course, lots going on this week, as you can imagine. Eunice on the line from Johannesburg. Eunice, hi.
Yeah, Stephen, how's it? I just want to respond to what Dayton McKenzie, the interview you had with him. Now, if you read his interview last week, what the press conference what he gave, what he said there was that as a Christian, he throws in his lot with Israel. Now, therein comes the problem. And then he goes further to say that if the ANC believes in the Quran, then they should support the Palestinians, which is clearly a nonsensical argument. Perhaps what you should do, Stephen, is get probably Reverend Alan Busak to challenge Dayton McKenzie from a biblical aspect of why one supports Israel and why one does not support Israel.
So, Eunice, in my experience as a radio person, arguing theology on the radio is not a good idea.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that is what Dayton said last week, and clearly I think he's way out of his line with on his views on the conflict there, because he did go with Kenny Kunene, and if you can recall when Kenny Kunene addressed the Jewish Board of Deputies meeting, he was screaming at the top of his voice, "Hunt Hamas, hunt Hamas." So this is what he wanted: 5,000 women and children dead. So clearly that they're out of line with the issue there.
Eunice, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? And I hope you don't mind because we hear from you quite often, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But I do want to put this to you. I was interested by the Sunday Times editor's decision last week to say they will no longer accept commentary, further pieces of commentary about the Middle East. And their point is that there are lots of things for us to talk about. And I said this on Monday, and I was referring to you. I don't know if you realize, and let me just sort of repeat it so that we're both on the same page, which is that there are some people who only call in to speak to us about the Middle East. And Eunice, you were the person I was thinking of. And so let me just say this to you. I don't want to censor people. I do think, though, that the editor of the Sunday Times has a point. And I would like to say to you that while I accept that the Middle East is important, I think as someone who is in South Africa, is South African, listening to a South African radio station whose name is actually South Africa FM, that I would like to encourage you, if I may, to speak about South African issues too.
Can I respond, Stephen?
Of course.
Right. I heard that call on Monday, and I was thinking, is Stephen talking about me? Now that you've raised it, I will respond. Currently, the Israel-Palestine conflict is the international hot topic in the world.
But even before then, that's the issue you would always call about.
No, but I've raised many different issues from sport to whatever on this show. But the fact is, when it comes to the media, and there are so many different opinions on this particular matter, where sometimes the media, for example, forget, or sometimes conveniently does not. For example, Stephen, I'll tell you one thing. How come the media here had not discussed one issue? About 4 weeks ago, there was a march to the Jewish Board of Deputy Officers.
So Eunice,
hold on, Stephen, let me talk. There was a lawyer here, Brenda Herbert. She's been charged for hate crime. She threw paint on people's cars and was, a whole lot of, profanities being on social media being uttered by her. No one in the media discussed that. Why?
But Eunice, you're kind of confirming my point. And I think I'm going to say to you that, and I'm going to consider this quite seriously. I'm not going to say right now that I'm going to do it, but that you do need to consider talking about what happens to South African people, and perhaps maybe poor black South African people, the people who tend to suffer the most in this country. I've
done that many times.
When? I can't think of an example.
I've done that over, Stephen.
I cannot think of an example.
No.
I didn't say there would be censoring, Eunice. I'm just saying you're a South African in South Africa on South Africa FM. I would really encourage you to talk too about South African issues. That's all I'm saying.
If there are South Africans who are fighting in the Israeli Defense Force against the Foreign Military Assistance Act, and the media doesn't pick up on that, and we pick up on it,
Eunice,
then it is a pertinent issue, then so be it.
All right, Eunice, I think you're kind of confirming my point, and I'm gonna stop it there, and we can both consider our positions over the weekend, and we can think about it all and all the rest. I just think there is something there. So, Eunice, thank you for taking the question. I appreciate the conversation. All right, you were there, SFM. It's 7:45. Rupert on the line from Empangeni. Truck drivers, Rupert, hi.
Hey, Stephen, how's it going?
All right, go for it.
Caller.
Welcome.
Steve, I'm a lychee farmer, and one of our trucks broke down on the N2 coming back at about 2 in the morning.
Hey, yeah.
Anyway, those, I call them midnight vultures, the tow truck drivers.
Yes.
Anyway, one guy came, he got my driver, he said he was going to pull him off the road. And I know what these guys' tactics are. So I said to him, I spoke to him on the phone, I said, listen, we're not interested. We've got our other guys from the workshop coming to tow our truck back. Anyway, one thing led to another. He got 2 other trucks to come park our car in, refused us to leave and tow our truck away. So then I called the cops, which is when I heard the guy who answered the phone snoring for about 2 minutes. I was saying, please, I need your help. No answer. I could literally hear the guy snoring on the phone.
Wow.
So, yeah, anyway, the point of my story is that those tow truck drivers are more dangerous than are any good. Anyway.
No, Rupert, yeah, and I mean, we had a call last week about First Help and the way that they've been behaving, and we haven't been able to get a response from them. Rupert, thank you for that. We'll stick that in our list of things to look at. All right, so a truck, the truck that was broke down, and then people use violence. I mean, this is what happens all the time, doesn't it? All right, Rupert and Empangeni, thank you. KG on the line from Mangaung. Hi, the UIF Fund. Good morning.
Thank you very much for taking my call, Steve. I think I
believe, and I suspect most South Africans will believe, the version of the story as told by that other gentleman was supposed to receive the 5 billion rand. I just forgot his name.
Musa Mdwaba, you believe him?
Yes, I believe Mdwaba, Stephen.
Why?
If he is lying.
Sorry, you say... Hold on. I'm confused now. You're saying you believe Mdwaba is lying, or you believe he's not?
No, I believe his version of the story. There was an arrangement that he's going to receive 5 billion rand, and 500 million rand of that money was supposed to go to these people that he's claiming.
But why would he not give evidence then? He's given no evidence.
Yes, Stephen. I think we must have made it acceptable to ourselves by now that a lot of things will happen that we are actually not able to prove, but that we know.
So I get that, but if he now claims to be a whistleblower, why is he only saying so now? This is my real problem with him. The timeline doesn't work.
Yes, obviously, Stephen, if things went well and he received that 5 billion rand and he was able to squander that money himself, he would not have said anything. But if it backfires and then maybe he had counted on it that he's going to have a showroom of vehicles overlooking the Sandton skyline and that, like Saudi. That is what I expect him to do. Right. My reason is this, Stephen. How on earth is it possible for a company to be formed on Monday,
yes,
and then on Friday it is getting that kind of deal?
No, it's complete nonsense.
If it is at all possible, let you and I or any other South African out there, let us go and register a company today, and then by this time next week you have a deal of even 50 million rand. Because we are nobodies, it will never ever happen under the sun. But if you are somebody who's spoken to a minister or two, and then there's a certain arrangement, believe you me, it becomes possible. That's why I believe that.
Sure, except it was the minister who stopped it. You know, it was the minister who stopped it.
Stephen, he didn't stop it because it was signed and sealed. There were signatures and everything. So according to me, he's lying. He didn't stop it.
All right.
And those people who signed, there's no way that they would have signed without him even they go ahead to sign. We are not sure of this thing.
All right, KG on the line from Mangung. Thank you. Interesting. Well, in a moment we'll hear from John from Rosebank wants to respond to the conversation we had with Eunice. Where do you stand on that? 086 000 2032.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Still very heavy on two of the major routes going north around Joburg today, or coming north into Joburg, if you like. One which we've been covering off all morning, it's the M1 North, a stationary truck in the N12 Deep Cliff interchange. That stays heavy from Eldorado Park as you line up and try to turn through the interchange towards Uncle Charlie's. The other breakdown is on the N3 North at Modderfontein Road. Traffic heavy from Van Buren up through Galilees. And behind that, the N12 and R24, it's a jamming coming into the interchange as well. The N1 stays busy out of Pretoria. This might surprise you this time of morning on a Friday, but you will see it from Graatsfontein down to the R21 into the roadworks. The R21 North linking into the M1 South is also quite slow as well. Durban, the N2 still jam-packed both ways through Spaghetti Junction. Just watch for delays pretty much all day today on that northbound side, and some possible delays between Pavilion and Spaghetti Junction as the roadworks start to intensify out that side as well. Cape Town, the N1 into town, busy from Marine Drive through Woodstock over the elevated freeway. The N7 is heavy again from Goodwood up towards that Bosmansdam Road off-ramp and into Summer Greens. There's some load shedding in that area until 10 a.m. Rob Byrne, SAFM Traffic.
Get ready for an adventure of a lifetime with SABC TV Licenses Ultimate Competition. Feel the pulse-pounding excitement of a Bundesliga match live on an all-expenses-paid journey you'll never forget. Or embrace the rhythm of your dreams at the Coachella Music Festival. The choice is yours. A football fan's paradise or a music lover's haven. Simply pay your TV license, then head to www.winaholiday.sabctvlicenses.co.za for a chance to win big. And don't forget, there are incredible weekly prizes up for grabs too. TV licenses. Pay yours. Make a difference.
RSB Berkane understand the value of 3 points, but Sekhukhune United are targeting the same prize. The Moroccans aim to exhilarate their fans with victory. Meanwhile, Babina Noku are on a mission to elaborate that they mean business. This is the CAF Confederation Cup. Catch RSB Berkane and Sekhukhune United this Sunday, 26 November at 8:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
SFM invites you to our inaugural public lecture, delivered by the former Chief Justice, Mogoeng Mogoeng.
Life is full of challenges, and when they come your way, learn to whack your way through it.
Yeah.
My father and my mother were highly disciplined people. I remember him saying, I have decided to deny myself whatever others are enjoying, to accumulate enough money so that any of my children who wants to study would have the resources available to study so that they don't have to suffer the way I have had to suffer.
The lecture will take place on the 29th of November 2023 at the SABC M1 Studios in Johannesburg. Secure your seat by emailing us at info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversation. Stephen Grootes on SAFM.
7 minutes to 9, the time. Continuing, of course, your story of the week. John on the line from Rosebank. John, hi. You heard my conversation with Eunice. What do you think, John?
Hi, Steve. Thank you for taking my call,
Go for it.
Steve, with all due respect, I strongly disagree with your view. I mean, what you suggested to Eunice, it's that censorship, right? I mean, you cannot dictate what South Africans are feeling, what they should be raising, and what their views are, right? And what you say to me reminds me of most white South Africans who says, guys, we're tired of apartheid. Can you talk about something else? We don't want to hear this because we're not comfortable with it. And I'm also just asking myself that because you said this, obviously also Sunday Times said the same thing, right? I'm asking myself, with the Russian war having taken place much longer, why have we never heard them saying we're tired of hearing about the Russian war? Is this ideological, right? Because obviously there's opposing side, and we know what sort of who are the sympathizers of Russia. Ukraine are also sort of in most cases the sympathizers same side within Israel, Palestine. So for me, that's the basic form of censorship, and I hope when you think about it over the weekend, please just forget about it. Let it naturally die. Don't kill it.
So John, I mean, I appreciate what you say, and I appreciate you. It's a very thoughtful response. For me, the thing is that I kind of feel, and I mean, part of my frustration with Eunice is that he doesn't seem to call about South Africans. Do you see what I mean? Like, I've never heard him call about poor South Africans or about employment or things like that. It always goes to them, and it always has before this conflict. And that's part of my frustration. I sort of feel we all have different parts of our identity, and the fact that I'm white is part of mine. But I kind of feel that, and that's my frustration. Or maybe I should use the word sadness instead. I don't know. I mean, as I say, there's a lot to contemplate here.
Let me ask you another question, right?
Sure.
There's a caller, I can't remember him, I think it's from Cape Town. They sound like a white old guy. Just
Mike from Newlands, yes. He also wants to talk this morning. Yeah.
That guy is always one straight, talks about the same thing. We know that he's DA. He calls every time. We know what he's going to say.
But
why are you not frustrated with him?
Well, I'm very rude to him. I'm far ruder to him than I am to Eunice. I mean, I'm very rude. I'm very rude to him. I'm much ruder to him than I am from Eunice.
But I think we should also tell him that change your lane once in a while, right? Because, I mean, if you start saying that to Eunice, then you need to go back to say all your callers who always raise one thing, now you're going to take a stand. Because I think it's very, very unfair. I mean, I understand. Maybe Eunice has got, that is very, very close to his heart, but you cannot set him up.
All right. No, John, thank you. I appreciate the call. Thank you. Well, on that subject, Gideon in Durban. Hi. Israel and Palestine. Go for it.
Hi, Stephen. Yes, I was wanting to discuss the proportionality of death rates occurring in the.
It's a horrible conversation.
Yes, I do think what needs to be taken into account. There's a lot of factors that are discounted, like it's a full-blown war. Firstly, the retaliation deaths that are being perpetuated by Hamas. We don't know how many of the population Hamas is accidentally killing of the nation. And then they have the congested housing factor. It's a full-blown war. There's going to be side effects. We can't discount that either. And then most of all, which I take the real cognizance of, is the fake news from those sides.
Yeah.
So that can't be discounted either. And the local population assisting Hamas, I don't believe that everybody hates Hamas and they're not assisting them. And then that hospital tunnel is proof. And I think all this has to be taken into consideration before we take sides. And we have to look at it and discuss it. That needs to be discussed. You don't get most of that. You don't get on your local news networks. You have to dig and look at it, and you still don't know if it's fake or whatever it is. So it's a topic I think has to be looked at very carefully.
Yeah, Gideon, I mean, I appreciate that, and I try and be very careful about it. Obviously, it's a very emotive topic as well. I think, you know, for me, the first time I sort of heard of that phrase, proportionality, I mean, I had my own sort of sense of things, and my sense does change from time to time. But it was coming from United Nations officials who were saying that proportionality is a problem. And that, I must say, I found that quite a persuasive argument, that no matter what you say, for so many people to die as a result of your own actions, I think is hard to justify.
It's hard to justify any war.
Yeah.
That's why you should note, I don't sit and take sides. I look at it from a perspective. I put myself outside of it, and I look at it in depth, and I think that that needs to be done. That cannot be done during a war. It'll only come out after the war.
Well, maybe. Sorry, Gideon.
Until then, I think.
Sorry, Gideon, didn't mean to cut you off. Yes. Look, I mean, I think you're probably right. We're probably going to have a much better understanding of what happened and what was true and what was not. Well, as always, I've really enjoyed being with you, really enjoyed the engagement as well. There's so much to talk about and so many interesting things. And the thing that I'm always amazed by, especially at around this time of the week, after we do this slot, is just how much I learn, and how sometimes conversations, what people say, change my own thoughts and views. Sometimes they don't. Anyway, lots to consider over the week. We will be back with you on Monday, so thank you for being with us this week. Kathy is next from Mdu, Stanza, and Paul. Myself, look after yourself. You're with SFM, leading the conversation, 9 o'clock.
Independent and impartial. This is SAFM News.
In our top stories, suspended KZN court president back in court next year, and Israel-Hamas ceasefire come into effect. Good morning. The former KwaZulu-Natal Regional Court President Eric Nzimande will be back in the Durban Magistrates Court in May next year. He appeared in court yesterday on 5 charges of corruption. Nzimande is accused of receiving 6 million rand in kickbacks between 2012 and 2015. Nzimande is also set to face a disciplinary hearing next year, was suspended 5 years ago. The National Prosecuting Authority's KwaZulu-Natal spokesperson, Natasha Ramkison-Kara.
Nzimande, as the regional court president for KZN, was responsible for making recommendations to the Minister of Justice for the appointment of acting regional court magistrates. The state is alleging that he sought and received gratification from each of these people, either before, during, or shortly after their appointments. He was served with an indictment in court, and the matter was adjourned to 20 May 2024 for a first appearance in the High Court.
Oscar Pistorius will know his fate at his second parole hearing today. The former Paralympic athlete and convicted murderer made an application for parole in March this year but was denied. Pistorius will now appear before the Correctional Supervision and